Part 109. I'm Really Immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Siahua. Chapter 1108. After laughing, Zhu Huntang put down his hands, gradually calmed down his impudent expression, and felt some emotion in his heart. Are there any other questions? Lu Yuwang looked at Zhu Huntang's expression. Could it be that she was going to have to pay a shameful price that Zhu Huntang would find difficult to talk about? That's not true. Look at the crowds of people coming and going, like insects in ignorance, either running for life, or just trying to survive, but they have to accept a more miserable fate, Zhu Huntang said with compassion. Lu Yuwang frowned. She didn't feel that the crowd was ignorant, especially since she and Zhu Huntang were standing here, with so many eyes on them. They still had time to look at beautiful women, so they didn't think they were that miserable. Zhu Huntang did not explain much. Sooner or later, he would rule the world, and after being exposed to it for a long time, and being influenced by a violent old man and an evil and cruel mother, it was natural that he would become a tyrant. The mortals in front of them, or their descendants, will be ruled by tyrants. Zhu Huntang, who has not yet completely lost his conscience, will naturally feel pity for them. Lu Chang'an also taught her that before her ambition was realized, it was just a joke, so Zhu Huntang did not intend to tell Lu Yuwang this. After successfully conquering the future elder of the Kyushu Fenglai sword sect, Zhu Huntang's strength greatly increased, and she suddenly felt that she actually had a slight upper hand in the battle of wits and courage with her father. Lu Chang'an is in that car. We went to school together. Zhu Huntang pointed to the black motorcade in the distance. Ah, you're not in a hurry about that matter, are you? Lu Yuwang hurriedly turned sideways, facing away from the car over there. I'm not in a hurry, but you are definitely more anxious than me, Zhu Huntang said calmly. Once when Lu Chang'an was driving him to school, he saw a golden willow that Lu Chang'an had rescued. At that time, Zhu Huntang said that she suspected that Lu Chang'an and Professor Lu were having an affair, so she was naturally beaten. Now it seems that Lu Chang'an and Professor Lu do not have a direct relationship. At most, there is some unknown ambiguity. This is a conclusion drawn from comparison with Zhongqing, who also had a dream last night. Zhongqing is Lu Chang'an's little vixen. After having some dreams about being whipped last night, instead of being ashamed, he rubbed and rubbed Lu Chang'an with a shy look on his face. Professor Liu's reaction was completely different. He evaded in a panic. This was a sign of a truly pure woman. Now Professor Lu has not adjusted his mentality to face Lu Chang'an directly, and Zhu Huntang is not in a hurry to urge her. Those who succeed in great things must be patient. The closer they are to success, the more calm they must be in order to pay attention to the undercurrents in the rough waves, so as not to lose a basket of soil. As soon as possible. Lu Yuwang carefully pulled the hem of his shirt, straightened his long hair hanging on his shoulders, and asked in a low voice, has An Nuan joined this Kyushu Fenglai sword sect? No. Zhu Huntang waved his hand and continued to draw the cake. After joining the Zhu Fenglai sword sect, you can get many benefits. I heard Professor Yuan Ling said that the facial cream Lu Chang'an gave you is very useful. This kind facial creams are basically the lowest level among many benefits. As we all know, people who can be controlled are because they have desires that they cannot control. For women, the yearning and pursuit of youthful appearance and skin are a kind of greed that comes from the bone marrow and penetrates into every nerve. A little teasing can make her crazy. Lu Yuwang couldn't help but breathe quickly for a moment. Is that kind of miraculous facial cream product just the lowest level of welfare? What about being more advanced? All she can think about is the feeling she had when she was 18 years old. Is it a higher level benefit that can truly stabilize a woman in that state, instead of a brief return to youth? En Nuan, even a fairy like me, who only gives birth to one in countless years in human history, will admit that she is one of the lucky ones who is favored. She has been cultivated by Lu Chang'an personally, and there is no need to join the 9 provinces Fenglai Sword section. Zhu Juntang has no intention of wooing An Nuan to join the 9 provinces Fenglai Sword sect. At present, the relationship between Zhu Juntang and An Nuan is okay, but sooner or later they will fall into a fighting relationship. An Nuan, like Qin Yanan, is a person who cannot be won over and can stand on his own. If An Nuan also joins the Kyushu Fenglai Sword sect, which side will Lu Yuwang take in the future struggles within the sect? In short, that would cause Lu Yuwang's trustworthiness to be greatly reduced, and at the same time, it would be a foolish act to prepare strong support for An Nuan in advance. Zhu Juntang was extremely resourceful, so he naturally had already considered this. I will go find Mr. Lu Chang'an as soon as possible. Lu Yuwang adjusted the back of her dress again. She always felt that Lu Chang'an was sitting in the car looking over here, making her feel like a ray of light piercing her back. However, she has made up her mind. The shame caused by the dream and the embarrassment when facing Lu Chang'an will eventually be overcome, but the temptation brought by the benefits of Zhu Fenglai Sword sect cannot be overcome. Who else is in the Zhu Fenglai Sword sect? Lu Yuwang asked. You haven't officially joined yet. The list of people in the sect is confidential and cannot be disclosed to you for the time being. Zhu Juntang felt that it would be better not to reveal it completely. It would be more attractive to maintain a certain degree of mystery. What I can tell you is Dan, Qin Yanan, and me. Because my mother has offended Lu Chang'an, is arrogant, and has poor brains, she cannot join for the time being. After speaking, Zhu Juntang looked around cautiously. Fortunately, Jin Xiaomei was not following her, and she did not have any electronic equipment on her body. Lu Yuwang understood a little bit. Although the third wife did not join the Zhu Fenglai Sword sect, she was undoubtedly closely connected with the sword section. Moreover, her daughter Zhu Juntang had already joined, so she had already been able to obtain some special resources. Is this the origin of the special nutritional and healthcare products that the third wife gave her when she visited her father in the 1990s? Not to mention Shangguan Dandan, Lu Chang'an will naturally put all the best resources on her, so that she will not only stay young forever, but also directly become a carefree girl, delicate and beautiful to the point of dreaming. Degree. Qin Yanan's incredible figure that cannot be grown naturally. Come to think of it, An Nuan's figure in high school was not as good as it is now. Lu Yuwang's eyes flashed with the brilliance of a little girl when she saw a beautiful doll. She grabbed her Chanel handbag tightly and mustered up the courage to turn around in an instant. Just as he was about to lift his leg, he felt the tendons in his calf tighten. The scene from last night's dream appeared in his mind involuntarily, and his body froze in place. Okay, I understand. Don't you have to go to class today? We'll meet in the evening and take a few minutes to chat. Lu Yuwang sneered, but never took a step. This is human reason. No matter how many delusions there are in the mind, for normal people, reason can always control the temptation of certain immoral desires. Morality, human ethics, and inner bottom lines will correct a person's mistakes that are about to be crossed. Words and deeds. Lu Yuwang felt a little emotional. As long as he walked upright and sat upright, uncontrollable dreams should not become a burden on his heart. If he always thinks about those scenes, he has truly fallen into the inner demons and is the real one. Danger. Just like I was able to decisively delete netizens in the past, now I can quickly dissipate the satisfaction in dreams and the pleasure of sinking, and expel those images from my heart. Goodbye. Zhu Juntang nodded and walked back to the car. Lu Chang'an was chatting with An Nuan. An Nuan acted coquettishly and asked him to take responsibility for the dream she had last night. She obviously didn't know that the dream was caused by Shangguan Dandan. Lu Chang'an had no choice. Shangguan Dandan did whatever he wanted, and he always ended up doing it. Wipe her ass. Master of the sect, I have just accomplished a great feat. Please promote me to the saintess of the 9 provinces Fenglai Sword sect immediately, Zhu Juntang said arrogantly. Normally, if you say you have made great achievements, I should just beat you up. Lu Chang'an knew very well that Zhu Huntang had made great achievements just to trouble him, explode him, and get into trouble random among these options. I have just successfully recruited Professor Lu, and she has decided to submit an application to you to join the 9 provinces Fenglai sword sect. Later Zhu Huntang said to herself. She was very sure that even if there was no affair between Lu Chang'an and Lu Yuang, but for Lu Chang'an, such a pleasing beauty, even if it is only used as a collection rather than a daily necessities, is still excellent. No, I've already said that to join our sect, you must have some superpower. What superpower does Professor Lu have? Is he super lucky? Then I should recruit big prize winners, reincarnation proficient players, etc. Lu Chang'an waved his hand. What kind of superpower does Lu Sin have? Lu Sin can lick shoes, wag his tail, and take Zhou Dongdong to school. As a dog, this is already a super dog level. Fart. Don't say bad words. Lu Chang'an hit Zhu Huntang, and the itchy feeling in his hands was relieved a lot. Professor Lu must join the Zhu Fenglai sword sect, otherwise my conspiracy will not succeed, Zhu Huntang said resolutely. Lu Chang'an looked at her expressionlessly. How could someone so confidently claim that she was going to use conspiracy? And she is also the target of conspiracy and conspiracy against her. I plan to become an important elder in the sect after Professor Lu joins, so that my faction's support will further increase. Whether it is fighting for power with Lu Qianqian in the future, or directly seeking to usurp the throne, or establishing his own sect and splitting the sword. The door has more supporters. Zhu Huntang stretched out his 2 hands, and he could count the number of people in the door with 2 hands, so one more supporter was almost a decisive tilt in power. Zhu Huntang, is there something wrong with your brain? Every time you tell me clearly what bad things you plan to do and what conspiracies you have prepared. What bad guy would do this? Lu Chang'an put away his mobile phone and folded his hands in front of his chest to take some time off. He looked at this bad bleed. Because you are my father. Even if you know that I am doing something wrong, you will only turn a blind eye. Even if I really ride on your head and dominate you, what father would be cruel? How about getting rid of her? The most you can do is hold her in your arms and pat her butt to punish her for being naughty, and even spit on her to help her heal her injuries. Saying that, Zhu Huntang was extremely satisfied. He was so happy that he sat in Lu Chang'an's arms, put his arms around his neck, rubbed his head against him, and sang in his mouth, "Dad! Dad! Dad, my daughter is Bimea, and Bimea's father is a dragon." Seeing her childish and coquettish look, Lu Chang'an felt that his straight back was a little soft, and he couldn't help but relax his posture so that she could be more comfortable lying in his arms. He couldn't help but feel a feeling in his heart, in this world how could such a wonderful creature exist? Lu Chang'an felt something was wrong again. One moment she was angry with him, and the other moment she was asking him to act coquettishly. How could she be like CPU? No, how could she be like Pua? This dragon definitely intends to Pua him. With this thought, Lu Chang'an looked down at Zhu Huntang. She was biting the buttons on his clothes. Lu Chang'an raised his hand and gently stroked her long black and soft hair. Forget it, just Pua. All kinds of requests, thank you boss. MLGB, I haven't seen my daughter for a month and the school has been closed. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 1109. The convoy continued to move forward, and according to Lu Chang'an's request, they still detoured on the way to Daisy Lake, taking a look at the renovated appearance of the rice noodle shop and the women's health club to see if there was any movement. First, he passed by the textile factory. Scaffolding had been hung outside and construction was going on intensively. Lu Chang'an saw 2 young people supervising the work. He had seen these 2 young men following Li Hongfang on the road. The earthy smell on their bodies showed that they had the same occupation as Li Hongfang. He originally thought that they were called by Li Hongfang to join Li Jiama in digging graves, but he did not expect that they were actually here to supervise the work. Li Hongfang is not here. She sent a very long message to Lu Chang'an early in the morning, describing her dream last night, but Lu Chang'an believed that it was a new novel she compiled. Judging from the current progress, the rice noodle store converted from a textile factory will be able to open smoothly during the Labor Day holiday. The final design of the industrial style of the rice noodle manufacturing plant may also become a check-in point for internet celebrities in the future. The uniforms of the waiters are also in the style of the female workers in the rice noodle factory. As long as Li Hongfang does not do evil things, some of her thoughts and ideas are still good. Does your rice noodle shop need an image spokesperson or something? Zhu Huntang is occasionally willing to do some low-end work. A well-known low-skirt brand once contacted Zhu Huntang through Baifen and wanted to have some business cooperation with her. Zhu Huntang felt that it was a loss of status, but being a spokesperson for a bad old man's rice noodle shop was different. Hanging her huge photo on the entire wall of the rice noodle shop formed a psychological reflection for him. Zhu Huntang can represent the old man's industry, what kind of rice noodle shop, what kind of Kyushu Fenglai Jianmen and so on. This is something Li Hongfang is responsible for. She will definitely only consider Zhou Shuling. Zhou Shuling's friendly image can more accurately represent the consumer positioning of the rice noodle store. Lu Chang'an will not consider Zhu Huntang at all. Firstly, every time he went to her penthouse apartment, what he saw most were her various huge photos, statues, paintings, videos, etc., which was a bit annoying. I don't want to see him and Zhou Shuling in their rice noodle shop. The second point is that I have to admit that when Zhu Huntang is not acting foolishly or seeking death, she has an obvious style and is very representative of the temperament of a young lady from a top wealthy family. Some things cannot be faked, and it is difficult to hide them. If she is the spokesperson, many people will think that the price must be very expensive. If you want to photograph her in a way that doesn't look like her, in order to express an image that fits the consumer positioning of the rice noodle store, she probably won't be willing to photograph it, so why bother looking for her? Lu Chang'an and Bai Hui have a good relationship, so it's probably no problem to ask Bai Hui for help. Li Hongfang's butt is really big, Zhu Huntang said with some emotion, and attributed the reason why Lu Chang'an focused on training Li Hongfang. Otherwise, why would he always take Li Hongfang to do things? Zhu Huntang often asked him to take her to rob homes and do evil things, but he would not take her with him. Lu Chang'an frowned and did not answer her words, nor did he ask her why her thinking jumped and turned so much, lest he could gradually understand and follow her thinking, and that would be the end of it. Our Kyushu Fenglai sword sect has not taken action for a long time. A superpower like us should secretly start a war and turn everyone around the world into black people. When Zhu Huntang thought that he always took Li Hongfang to work, he naturally thought of Jianmen's actions, and casually formulated a far-sighted plan. Why would starting a war turn people all over the world into black people? In his long life history, he has seen various races. Generally speaking, Lu Chang'an has no concept of racial discrimination. He only discriminates against two kinds of people. Kind of people. Because all lives were devastated in the war, and people were devastated all over their bodies, so naturally they all became black. Zhu Huntang smiled proudly. Every time he saw Lu Chang'an's look of not wanting to talk to her, he couldn't help but ask her, and finally looking shocked and annoyed by her answer, Zhu Huntang felt very accomplished and happy. Lu Chang'an took a deep look at Zhu Huntang and covered her face with her favorite quilt, out of sight and out of mind. He didn't even bother to correct her on the meaning of the idiom, quagmire, charcoal fire, which means almost the same thing as deep water and hot water. She probably knows the correct meaning, but she just likes to use and misinterpret idioms indiscriminately. But it's also possible that she really doesn't know, and it's just taken literally. This is the most annoying thing about her. you never know whether you are talking nonsense to her or teaching her correctly. Based on the distance between the former site of the textile factory and the women's health club and the calculation of the vehicle speed, Lu Chang'an estimated the time and opened the quilt and took a look outside the window. Near the women's health club, there are many young people who have transformed into beasts. They wear ankle-exposed trousers, short suits with waisted waists, and narrow ties. They stand there like ducks. Oh, they are just doing ducks. I almost forgot about this. Lu Chang'an saw two familiar faces. Zhu Nian, who was ranked last among the technicians in the store because he often sucked men and had bad breath, and Hu, a diamond technician who worked hard day and night and often provided all-day services. Gah! They probably had some plan. Lu Chang'an didn't care and covered himself with the quilt again. At present, there is Qin Zici, the official representative in handling the alien beast incident, the idol Zhu Fenglai sword sect, and Su Mei's men in black. These alien beasts will not make any waves unless they reveal all their trump cards. In other words, they dare not act rashly. The news they received from Li Hongfang is that the alien beasts have less contact with Oka himself. Dad, who do you think they are compared to real ducks? Ah! It hurts me to death, bad old man, I didn't even finish my sentence. Ah, hit me again. When I came outside the classroom where class was held today, the first period had just ended. Yan Qingchen was asking the teacher a question, while Zhu Huntang used his superb assassin-level stealth skills to sneak into the classroom quietly. Zhu Huntang, you skipped another class of mine. The teacher pointed at Yan Qingchen's exercise book and said without even raising his eyelids. Lu Chang'an also escaped, as the saying goes, finding an accomplice can share the blame to the greatest extent possible. Zhu Huntang immediately pointed and put his hands in his pockets, strutting as if Lu Chang'an had been there for the first class. Lu Chang'an scored full marks on the final exam paper. He still has the capital to skip a few classes occasionally. What about you? What's your score? The teacher then raised his head and glanced at Zhu Huntang. If it weren't for, forget it, he is actually just a teacher. The heart of teaching is tireless, good students and hopeless students should be treated equally. What's my score? Zhu Huntang's eyes widened. How do I know? A few points is usually a single-digit score. If you usually exceed 10 points, I won't tell you what your score is. The teacher shook his head. My requirements are not high. You can improve it to 20 or 30 points in the final exam, that's it. You usually don't give me a cent, how is that possible? The teacher didn't want to talk anymore, and waved his hand to indicate to Zhu Huntang to go away and play, and said to Yan Qingchen, let Lu Chang'an talk to you about this issue. It was involved in the final exam question of last semester. He wrote it eloquently. Heap. Okay, thank you, teacher. Yan Qingchen also glanced at Zhu Huntang. Zhu Huntang was shocked. It turns out that the self-harming behavior of asking the teacher to practice exercises can have such a wonderful effect. Yan Qingchen is indeed a formidable enemy that Zhu Huntang must be wary of, surpassing canned lychees and second only to Lu Changchun. With his tea skills practiced to this extent, I wonder if the pig-headed military counselor can match him. It seems that I have to discuss countermeasures with Annex-C today. Yan Qingchen glanced at Zhu Huntang, not to show off her power, but just felt that Zhu Huntang was really naughty and willful. Lu Chang'an was absent from class most of the time, right? It was because he caught her and drove her to class, right? There is no way around it. After all, Professor Lu Jianxi is her biological father. Lu Chang'an will naturally do his best to educate and guide her. Those who are favored are always confident. Children of poor people have long been the masters. Yan Qingchen knows that she can only work hard. Learning can change your destiny, and you do not have the right to be naughty and willful. She is not jealous of Zhu Huntang, she is a little envious, but everyone can only live their own life, and decide what they yearn for and expect based on their own conditions and capital, as well as what they can do. There is no use in complaining in your heart about why you are not living the life of Zhu Huntang. I thought my study progress was already a little ahead of schedule, but I didn't expect you to apply it to last year's exam questions. Yan Qingcheng looked at Lu Chang'an with sincere admiration. She sat next to Lu Chang'an, tilting her body slightly, not only showing her attitude of listening carefully, but also paying attention to the distance between the men and women, so as not to attract gossip and cause trouble for him. It's good that you actively learn from me and take me as your goal. Academically, in terms of learning, I'm not the kind of person who can't be surpassed. Lu Chang'an humbly belittled himself while praising Yan Qingcheng. Yan Qingcheng smiled slightly, with a sincere and enthusiastic light in her eyes. Of course she was learning from him and targeting him, but he was not someone who could be easily surpassed. According to his mother's memories and narration, as well as Yan Qingcheng's understanding of the history of Hunan University, Professor Lu Jianxi was not elected as an academician just because of behind-the-scenes operations, but his reputation and academic achievements in the international professional field far exceeded those of him. Academician Lu Yehong's academician quota, if there had been a fair selection back then, Professor Lu Jianxi would have been among the top 5 youngest academicians. Now that so many years have passed, Professor Lu Jianxi has lived another kind of life, but a skinny camel is bigger than a horse. How can his achievements be surpassed by Yan Qingcheng? I have no ambition to surpass you. I'm lucky to be able to study with you. Yan Qingcheng couldn't help but reveal a little of her thoughts, although she always wanted to make the time with Lu Chang'an and Professor Lu Jianxi gestures and feelings, but in reality it is simply impossible. The unluckiness in the past may be for the sake of luck in the future, Lu Chang'an said pointedly, nodding with satisfaction. Yan Qingcheng is truly well behaved, not like that bleeding dragon, who once behaves well behaved, most likely just want to poo him. If you don't talk about the topic, what are you talking about? After Zhu Huntang stared and observed from the side, he found that the two of them were flirting with each other, not looking like they were serious about studying at all. He quickly sat next to him and stretched his neck to stare at Yan Qingcheng's exercise book. Let's talk about this topic. Zhu Huntang tapped his fingers on the notebook, resisting the drowsy feeling of his brain being attacked by those words, symbols, and topics. This yeast 2 hybrid technology was proposed by American scientists Fields and others in 1989. It does not require special equipment and has low technical difficulty. The basic principle is that the activation of transcription factors to their downstream target genes depends on. Zhu Huntang held his cheeks with his palms, endured the discomfort, and persisted. His eyes shuttled between Lu Chang'an and Yan Qingcheng, paying attention to whether their eye contact showed any signs of fatherly kindness and filial piety. The most important thing was that Lu Chang'an said, when I asked the question, I only made eye contact with Yan Qingcheng. They just treat Zhu Huntang as nothing, as if Zhu Huntang is not qualified to participate in learning and discussion. During the breaks after class, Zhu Huntang always felt that time flies by, but now it feels like years. Einstein must have invented the theory of relativity under the same circumstances as himself. Was the theory of relativity invented or discovered? It must have been invented. There is no way that such an outrageous and torturing theory existed in the universe. It was all created by these people who were idle and had nothing to do when they were full. Thinking about the usefulness of this, Zhu Huntang couldn't help but get distracted. When he came back to his senses, he found that Yan Qingcheng was showing some witty behavior, and Lu Chang'an actually reached out and patted Yan Qingcheng's head gently. Zhu Huntang quickly squeezed in between the two people and angrily grabbed Lu Chang'an's hand and pressed it on top of his head. This careless old man didn't even look at him for a second before he cheated on him and went to have sex with someone else who he didn't recognize at all. The daughter is a loving father and a filial daughter. Yan Qingcheng couldn't help but smile, stood up and said to Lu Chang'an, class is about to start. I will sort out the remaining questions and send them to you on WeChat. You can just reply to my voice and help me answer them. Okay. Lu Chang'an doesn't like listening to voices, but of course it is more convenient to help people answer questions by voice. Zhu Huntang stared at Yan Qingqing's back and watched her sit in the front row. Only then did he feel that the crisis was slightly relieved, and he couldn't help but have some incredible and absurd thoughts in his heart. How about you spend 100% of your efforts and study seriously? No, I won't even learn until I die. Whenever he sees the textbooks of these professional courses, the brain on Zhu Huntang's cerebral cortex becomes weak and unable to move at all, causing the entire brain to stop functioning. If you are so resourceful, why would you choose the same path as Yan Qingcheng? There are at least a million ways to compete for father's love other than pretending to love studying. After class at noon, Lu Chang'an originally wanted to take Zhu Huntang to An Nuan for dinner, as usual, to cultivate the atmosphere and goodwill between her and An Nuan, but he didn't know that Bai Hui was waiting outside the teaching building in her bidhan. Zhu Huntang, who originally agreed to have lunch with Lu Chang'an, whispered to Bai Hui, and the two fairies got into the car and drove away. Lu Chang'an stood there with a normal expression. Why did the scene seem like he was going back in time? Chinzi, let's go have dinner with An Nuan. Lu Chang'an waved to Yan Qingcheng. Yan Qingcheng was holding a book and stood not far away, flipping through it. When she heard Lu Chang'an's greeting, she could only smile and say to Tong 11 and the others, I want to have dinner with An Nuan, and then pressed her chest with her flowing hair on her front. She walked over slowly and calmly and stood at an arm's length away from Lu Chang'an, waiting for An Nuan with him. People must remember to compare with themselves. Surpassing yourself is achievement. The author, who is much more diligent than before, breathed loudly and quickly among the sun in the cold winter month and shouted, all kinds of requests. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 1110. Lu Chang'an and Yan Qingcheng stood together, very eye-catching. They were the tallest male and female classmates in the class. Even Wei Xuanyi, who was quite good at basketball, was shorter than Lu Chang'an. The main reason why Lu Chang'an is so tall is to match the taller figure of An Nuan. As the boyfriend of a female volleyball player, his physique must be guaranteed to prevent the various male team members who often come into contact with An Nuan from scorning and provoking him. Heart of the men's team members maintain their height and physical strength, which is their capital. When their strongest capital is mediocre in front of Lu Chang'an, they can save a lot of things. An Nuan has experienced several incidents of being pursued and coveted by Lu Chang'an. After Lu Chang'an handled them in a gentle and low-key manner, there are very few people who are still ready to make a move on An Nuan. Even if someone talks about An Nuan and expresses some intention of pursuing An Nuan, there are others who persuade her that the beautiful girl's boyfriend is a top student. He must have watched American youth movies and TV series. He is the kind of tall guy with a bullying temperament. The type that beats people up. Rumors are always inconsistent with the facts. Lu Chang'an is obviously elegant and easygoing, and he always gives people a warm feeling of peace and tranquility. Now the classmates in the class no longer have a sense of distance from him, and the girls no longer think that if they spend more time with him, they will get pregnant. Seeing Yan Qingcheng and Lu Chang'an standing together, Tong 11 even brought a few girls to fight with him. He left after saying hello. Although Tong 11 always secretly observes Yan Qingcheng and reports her activities to Bai Hui at any time, Yan Qingcheng actually likes Tong 11 quite a bit. First of all, it was her job, not her own against Yan Qingcheng. She worked for the boss and made money without being squeamish. Secondly, Yan Qingcheng sometimes unintentionally knows Bai Hui's movements through Tong 11. Yan Qingcheng is not interested in Bai Hui's movements, but if he accidentally knows about Bai Hui's movements, he can use it, right? For example, when class was just beginning, Yan Qingcheng saw the message Bai Hui sent to Tong 11, saying that he would come over to Zhu Huntang later. Normally, as soon as Bai Hui comes, Zhu Huntang will wave his hands and slap him, like a cute little penguin that has found its little friend, and runs away after Bai Hui, leaving Lu Chang'an there. If she hadn't walked away at this time, well, she didn't do it deliberately. She was a girl from a poor family. Her ability to observe people's emotions, be motivated and seize opportunities was the basis for her to achieve a class jump, so she didn't think too much about it. Stopped involuntarily and waited for Lu Chang'an's lunch invitation. As for the fact that the three of them had lunch together, Yan Qingcheng didn't mind. She was not pursuing Cha-Cha's high-ranking girlfriend. She was not the same as some Cha-Cha god, light-speed hoe-wielder, or corner destroyer. Yan Qingcheng, I saw your mother last time she came to school. Wei Xuanyi came over to talk to Yan Qingcheng. When Lu Chang'an saw Sun Shutong standing further away, he understood that Wei Xuanyi was looking for something to do with Yan Qingcheng. Sun Shutong's position indicated that he was not even a wingman, but was just far away from the center of the incident, watching as if he had nothing to do with it. Then have you seen her with a particularly handsome old professor? Yan Qingcheng showed a yearning expression and emphasized the syllable in handsome old professor. I didn't pay attention, actually. I wanted to ask, have you eaten? Wei Xuanyi said nervously, putting one hand in his pocket and shaking one leg slightly, trying to make a casual gesture. But the palms in the pocket have been clenched into fists, holding the pocket cloth tightly. What you're saying, I'm not an eating machine. How can I eat right after class? Yan Qingcheng waved her hand and got slightly closer to Lu Chang'an. Let's have a meal together at noon. I have some class work that I want to talk to you about. There's a new restaurant opened opposite the engineering building. It feels pretty good. Wei Xuanyi finished in one breath. I have something to do later, let's chat on WeChat. Seeing that the other party still said it, Yan Qingcheng had to politely refuse, I'm sorry. It's okay. Wei Xuanyi quickly turned around and left. Sun Shutong then greeted Lu Chang'an and Yan Qingcheng with a smile, trotted to catch up with Wei Xuanyi, and hooked his shoulder, not sure if he was teasing or comforting. Lu Chang'an smiled. Just now Yan Qingcheng emphasized handsome old professor, which actually meant you are too young and immature and not my type. As for getting closer to Lu Chang'an later, it was even more detailed. She said she had an appointment and told Wei Xuanyi not to speak. It's just that how does Wei Xuanyi understand the body language of girls? If I could understand, I wouldn't have a girlfriend now. Having said that, Wei Xuanyi doesn't have a girlfriend now. Maybe it's not because his emotional intelligence is not high enough. Many boys who have relatively low emotional intelligence in love and relationships between men and women still have girlfriends. It was all Zhu Huntang's fault. Her appearance made ordinary boys see the upper limit of beautiful girls in daily life, and naturally they looked down on Yan Qingcheng, who was relatively ordinary at that time. Now no one in the entire Hunan University has ever pursued Zhu Huntang, and Wei Xuanyi, who has just entered the semi-real world, understands what it means to be out of reach, and has to realize that he can only pursue girls like Yan Qingcheng. Who knows that the real reality is not that he cannot pursue Zhu Huntang, but that Yan Qingcheng is not the one he can pursue if he wants to. Professor Lu Jianxi recently gave away cosmetics, and Yan Qingcheng started to put on makeup and dress up under Professor Liu's will. It was quite amazing. After Wei Xuanyi discovered that Yan Qingcheng's popularity had soared, he finally couldn't help but take action and immediate defeat. A little annoyed now, Lu Chang'an looked at Yan Qingcheng, who was frowning slightly, with a smile. It's not. Yan Qingcheng came back to her senses, slightly shy, feeling a little embarrassed like being discovered by an elder that someone is pursuing her. Actually, we are all classmates, so it's okay to have a meal together. I'm like this, to put it bluntly. Are you not giving Wei Xuanyi face and embarrassing him in front of Sun Shutong? Caring too much about other people's feelings often means not caring too much about your own feelings. Sometimes indifferent rejection is not a lack of softness and warmth in the heart, but a comfortable attitude towards life. Lu Chang'an read a short article about a social animal with a pleasant personality who began to learn to refuse, and slowly realized the comfort and relaxation that comes from his heart after rejecting others. Most people naturally don't have this. Such a sense of comfort and relaxation will only be taken for granted, but for the cure of pleasant personality, which is a psychological illness, the feeling is completely different. You always talk, without accumulated experience, it is difficult for a young boy to speak out philosophical words that can enlighten people's hearts like you. Yan Qingcheng looked at Wei Xuanyi and Sun Shutong in the distance. The back view of her is not actually because she thinks highly of herself. The most important thing is that she got to know Professor Lu Jianxi. What Yan Qingcheng wants to do now is to win the approval and favor of Professor Lu Jianxi. She has no interest in doing those romantic things with boys. It sounds like I'm not young. Lu Chang'an showed some dissatisfaction. Eat more for lunch, let's enjoy the life of Zuhuntang. Yan Qingcheng was a little curious, what should I eat for lunch? She didn't intend to eat more deliberately like some people did. Children who grew up in poor families rarely had a bad appetite. When they were young, they had the feeling of never being full when they encountered delicious food. She wanted to eat it. The feeling of hunger and thirst will be ingrained in the heart for a lifetime. And Nuan came quickly. With her standing next to Lu Chang'an, Yan Qingcheng was not so eye-catching. Her height of more than 1.7 meters was not as high as in Nuan's high school days. Yan Qingcheng finally felt a little better about herself. A petite illusion. Lu Chang'an looked sideways at his girlfriend. With the warm spring breeze, her waist would sway more cheerfully like willow branches. As she walked, the hem of her short skirt was swaying when it was hit by the small volleyball. The slender legs that had attracted Lu Chang'an in high school were as warm as jade under the noon light. And Nuan giggled, covering up her shame in last night's dream. She looked as usual. After all, she and Lu Chang'an had already had many close cooperations, and she was not like some women who would be anxious and emotional even if they had a dream about immorality. Revealed. Zhu Huntang ran away, and her kitchen cart was left behind. I just used it to cook delicious food for you. Lu Chang'an now feels that it is a good thing that Zhu Huntang ran away, lest she come to attack him while he is cooking, and he divides the food. She wanted the first plate and Lu Chang'an to serve her this and that, and she also had to trouble Yan Qingcheng from time to time. Totally annoying. Oh, I know, she went to play with Bai Hui, and Nuan said clearly. Hey, how do you know? Yan Qingcheng was curious. Isn't Bai Hui close to the School of Biology? Usually when I come over, I will ask her if she wants to have a meal together at noon or something. She just replied to me and said that she and Zhu Huntang would have something to eat in the nanny car. And Nuan and Bai Hui are good friends. The business school and the biology school are basically separated by a mountain. If they come here once in a while, of course they will ask Bai Hui's location. They are good friends and have a good relationship. If Bai Hui happens to appear near the School of Biology, then we must have a meal together to maintain the friendship of classmates who have been in love with each other since high school. Lu Chang'an nodded with understanding. And Nuan turned her head, blocking Yan Qingcheng's gaze with her body, and reached into his trouser pocket to pinch it. Lu Chang'an is the kind of man who is easy to pinch. Yan Qingcheng looked over. Naturally, Lu Chang'an would not reveal what An Nuan was doing. He put his hand into his pocket and held An Nuan's hand as if nothing had happened. Then he pointed forward and said, "Let's go. Chinzi, you smell good today, did you use perfume?" And Nuan linked her other hand with Yan Qingcheng and exclaimed, "It smells really good." "No, I just tried using skincare products recently, and also changed my shampoo." Yan Qingcheng wanted to look at Lu Chang'an, but held back, and said to An Nuan enviously, "Your skin feels like no matter how many skincare products others use, no matter how much makeup they put on, it can't be compared to her." Natural beauty is still the most beautiful and extremely exquisite. No, no, actually, I used to be a tomboy, very rough. But I didn't dare to say that, for fear of being called a manly bitch. Bitch. There are some girls who are obviously very hot-tempered and don't have any characteristics of tomboys at all, but they also like to say that they are tomboys and so on. Ah, why are they doing this? The purpose is of course to attract boys, or to perform in front of certain people. Lu Chang'an listened to their exchange without saying a word. And Nuan was pure and beautiful, innocent and kind, and had no tea smell at all. Zhu Huntang's kitchen cart was parked not far away, under the shade of a tree. The appearance of the kitchen car is no different from those expensive giant luxury RVs. It only has a single purpose, which is a mobile full-function kitchen. There are no luxury RV rooftop pools, sports car garages, oversized bedrooms, saunas, and the like. Normally, Zhu Huntang would have something to eat here if he didn't go to other places to eat. The car was equipped with 4 chefs and 4 servants. Lu Chang'an asked them to rest, then opened the side sunshade, outdoor dining table and chairs, and prepared to use the equipment and ingredients in the kitchen car for barbecue. Barbecue is more comfortable and casual than other dining methods, and it is more suitable for outdoor and student parties. If in such an environment, a whole meal full of hard dishes would lose the feeling of leisure and leisure. Lu Chang'an briefly visited the interior of the kitchen car and pressed various buttons in the driving area and central control area. It must be said that he understands the functions and operations, which is completely different from Shang Guandandan's stupid behavior of simply wanting to press a button when he sees it. As expected, this kitchen car also took into account the outdoor barbecue function. Lu Chang'an found the barbecue mode on the touch panel. A barbecue area with a range hood suction device appeared on the side of the car, allowing him to show off his skills. And Nuan and Yan Qingcheng also had a brief visit. As girls, naturally they would not like to operate with as much interest as Lu Chang'an. After sighing for Zhu Huntang's luxury, they sat together and continued gossiping. Yan Qingcheng actually wanted to help, but now this man is Lu Chang'an, and his girlfriend is still here. If she forces herself to work, isn't that like little green tea? We have another person on the volleyball team. She is very beautiful and has a great figure. She is just like your teacher Qin. She is actually a volleyball player. Can you imagine what it was like when she was playing? And Nuan showed an expression recalling that scene and gently said, shaking his head, "There are 3 balls flapping back and forth in a football match. How can you see it? It's really overwhelming. I'm really immortal." Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 1111. Zhu Huntang just hoped that Lu Chang'an would agree to play, but he could not play today. So after class, Zhu Huntang happily followed Lu Chang'an and Shang Guandandan home after being wary that Yan Qingcheng did not wait for an opportunity to approach his father. We still took Zhu Huntang's car, but we just took a detour to go to the vegetable market. Lu Chang'an and Shang Guandandan were both frequent visitors to the vegetable market. They got out of the car as soon as they arrived. Shang Guandandan put the thermos bottle on the car, then jumped up behind Lu Chang'an, but failed to jump on his back. Then she held his finger. After the afternoon, the vendors who were originally sitting close to the wall moved their stalls to the middle of the road, making it look very crowded with vehicles and pedestrians. It's no wonder they are like this. If someone moves to the middle, closer to the pedestrians, others have to follow. Otherwise, other people's dishes will be sold out, and no one will care about you in the corner. As for everyone leaning against the wall to make the middle of the road clear, this is basically impossible and goes against human nature. There are always people who don't obey the rules, so everyone doesn't obey the rules. This is the natural situation without order and violent management. I want to eat meat buns tonight, I want to eat grilled fish, I want to eat camel, I want to eat dragon stew, I want to eat goose, I want to eat. Shang Guandandan looked around and said to himself as if singing. Want to eat something? She just wanted to eat, not really want to eat. There is a difference. The Queen Mother is a little girl who is many years old but has not grown up. Little girls are easy to raise, and the Queen Mother is also easy to raise and is not picky about food. You used to lie in a coffin and just need to absorb the vitality and blood. You even ate the sycamore tree. Why do you want to eat all kinds of dishes like us humans now? Lu Chang'an looked sideways at Shang Guandandan, who was shaking his head and pretending to be cute. Asked. Shang Guandandan didn't answer Lu Chang'an's question, which was essentially just to mock her without caring about the answer, and bit his arm with her mouth wide open. After biting him, he picked up his sleeves, looked at the shallow tooth marks, and turned around to ask Zhu Huntang to bite him together, but found that Zhu Huntang was still sitting in the car hesitantly, looking around. After listening to Shang Guandandan's greeting, Zhu Huntang made up his mind to go to the vegetable market. As the ruler of the world, Zhu Huntang has excellent qualities as a monarch, which is to be considerate of the people's sentiments and have insight into the world. She can't be like some emperors who can't remember their names and don't need to remember their names, and make ridiculous questions like why don't you eat beef with snowflakes? In the past, she accompanied Qin Yinan to the vegetable market, which left a psychological shadow. But at that time, she was just a fairy, so she naturally had to stay away from the mortal world, but now she is a monarch level supreme. So Zhu Huntang snapped his fingers, and a bread man ran over with a protective mask. This kind of mask not only protects against viruses, droplets, dust, and odors, but also comes with a fresh air system. Apart from being a little heavy, it has almost no shortcomings. Zhu Huntang, who put on the mask, was no longer afraid of the vegetable market and walked towards Lu Chang'an and Shang Guandandan with great swagger. I'll buy it. Zhu Huntang squeezed in between Lu Chang'an and Shang Guandandan, looked around and frowned. Do you know what groceries you want to buy? Lu Chang'an, with the intention of educating her on basic common sense of life, did not raise his hand to push her away. Bought them all? How did Zhu Huntang know? She didn't need to know, she just snapped her fingers and asked the bread man to clear the stall in front of him. Why did you call her here? Lu Chang'an had nothing to do with Zhu Huntang, so he just complained about Shang Guandandan. It was really troublesome. Shang Guandandan just looked at Lu Chang'an, then took out a cabbage core from the arms of the bread man holding a lot of vegetables, peeled off the leaves and skin, stuffed it into his mouth and chewed it. Lu Chang'an discovered that there was actually nothing he could do against Shang Guandandan. That was right. He was a normal person, so naturally he couldn't communicate normally with these abnormal-brained sheep and birds. Shang Guandandan ate one himself and peeled another one for Zhu Huntang. Zhu Huntang frowned and looked at it, then stuffed it into his mouth, chewed it for a few times and spit it out, deciding to eat it only after he turned into a lamb. Lu Chang'an changed stalls and planned to buy some leafy scallops. Have you put any pesticides in this vegetable? Zhu Huntang came over again and showed his life experience skillfully. Everyone must say this when buying vegetables. Want to eat? You can go back and put some for yourself, the old vegetable seller said angrily. Zhu Huntang glared at the old farmer. Sure enough, as long as he was a bad old man, he would be very annoying when he spoke, and he would look like he didn't like the little fairy. Lu Chang'an paid the money and dragged Zhu Huntang away. After getting in the car again, Zhu Huntang took the spray and sprayed himself, Lu Chang'an and Shang Guandandan to completely eliminate the smell of the wet market. Originally, after going to such a place, Zhu Huntang had to take a bath and throw off her clothes, but she always followed Lu Chang'an, and under the influence of her ears and eyes, she inevitably became a less particular BAA, so she did not go to the nanny's car to change clothes. Just deal with it casually. You stopped me from attacking that bad old man just now. Are you afraid that seeing him defeated miserably in my hands would inevitably give you a feeling similar to an object? Zhu Huntang proudly suspected that Lu Chang'an was cowardly and was afraid of her. How long will it take you to learn the idiom objects of their own kind? Lu Chang'an remembered that she had been saying that objects are similar since last year, and someone had been helping her correct it, but she just couldn't remember the correct idiom. Stupid. Since I said objects are similar, you already understand that objects harm their own kind, which means that these two words are synonymous. Zhu Huntang was wearing a protective mask and felt particularly imposing. It was very natural to scold Lu Chang'an in person. Not afraid at all. Lu Chang'an didn't know how many times he hit her today, and he reached out to pick her up and hit her again. Shang Guandandan stretched out a few hairs and flicked Lu Chang'an's hand away like a tentacle to protect Zhu Huntang. Ha ha ha, as long as my godmother is here, I will not be bullied. Zhu Huntang was very proud and wanted to find some more wonderful sentences to kill Lu Chang'an, but after thinking for a while, he frowned and found that he didn't. I knew such a sentence, so I gave up. She can protect you for a while, but she can't protect you forever. After Lu Chang'an said this, he felt something was wrong. How could he be educating his children like a bad-faced father and a bad-faced mother? Zhu Huntang doesn't care. When it comes to provoking Lu Chang'an, she always only cares about the present. In the future, just cry when she gets beaten. There's nothing to be afraid of. Back under the sycamore tree, Zhu Huntang got off the car first. She saw Zhou Dongdong had finished school and was sitting at the small table. Although there were textbooks and homework on the table, Zhou Dongdong was not studying. Instead, he was playing with a small black ball rolling around with his fingers. Seeing this scene, Zhu Huntang was very kind. He walked over and asked, "Dongdong, what are you playing?" "Let's play ball, do you want to play?" Zhou Dongdong enthusiastically invited Zhu Huntang. Although he didn't know what fun it was, Zhu Huntang stretched out his fingers to take the little black ball and rolled it around on the table in order to show that he was also an innocent child. "It's a little elastic and dark, I don't know what it is." "What is this made of?" Zhu Huntang asked. "My booger." Zhu Huntang was stunned for a moment, looking at his fingertips with dull eyes. The ball fell from his fingertips and fell on the table. Zhou Dongdong held it down and rolled it around again. When Lu Chang'an saw this, he stopped Zhou Dongdong from playing with his boogers and took the older one and the younger one to wash their hands. Growling. Shang Guandandan only felt that the family happiness made her feel happy. She sat in Zhou Dongdong's original position and turned over Zhou Dongdong's homework. As Zhou Dongdong's godmother, she was supposed to tutor him. Zhou Dongdong does his homework. After flipping through it casually, Shang Guan stared at a question for 3 minutes, then stood up and jumped upstairs with his skirt. Tutoring homework is beyond the scope of the Queen Mother's ability. The Queen Mother is just a person who has not accepted the 9 little girls who receive compulsory education for 10 years cannot learn and do not like to learn. The last chapter of the VIP chapter of I'm Really Immortal. Goodbye everyone. I'm Really Immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 1112. Lu Chang'an took Zhu Huntang and Zhou Dongdong upstairs to wash their hands. After helping Zhou Dongdong wash his hands, he wiped them with a towel, and then poked Zhou Dongdong's nostrils with his little finger. Zhou Dongdong was poked so hard that he stepped back again and again. After yelling ouch, he promised Brother Chang'an that he would never play with booger balls again. Because she felt that Brother Chang'an poked her nostrils to warn her that always picking her nostrils would make them very big. At that time, Brother Chang'an would use 2 fingers to hook her nostrils and pull her away. Lifted or dragged around. Thinking about it felt scary, so Zhou Dongdong sniffed, a little happy that he understood this truth. It must be because he has grown up a little bit. Zhu Huntang also jumped up and down with his hands raised to attract his attention, waiting for Lu Chang'an to come and wipe his hands, but he did not receive such treatment. After he wiped Zhou Dongdong's hands, he walked out of the kitchen. Zhu Huntang was angry. He rushed over and wiped all the water on his back. Damn old man, why don't you wipe my hands for me? Am I not your baby anymore? Zhu Huntang said angrily. It seems that he wants to invent a tool to remind him all the time that Zhu Huntang is his most important person. Only my beloved baby will do. For example, give him an alarm clock. The alarm clock every morning is get up quickly, I will appear in front of your baby in 5 minutes. No, Lu Chang'an doesn't know how to use an alarm clock. He would even throw the lamb out of the window. If the alarm clock makes him tired, he might just throw it away. By the way, you can make a mobile app and install it on his phone, and it is the type that has the highest permissions and cannot be deleted no matter what. As long as he uses his mobile phone, from time to time a lamb will crawl out from the edge of the screen with its head peeping out, and from time to time it will make a bleeding sound, or some bleeding quotes will appear in the notification bar. Thinking of this, Zhu Huntang suddenly felt that she was brave and mighty. Only she could come up with such a clever plan. In the long run, Lu Chang'an would not be brainwashed and become a walking zombie who thinks about her and loves her all the time. There are no other daughters who are green, tea-like, well-behaved, who can and cannot sleep in her eyes. Ha ha ha, I'm such a genius. Zhu Huntang put his hands on his hips and laughed. Then he immediately sent his request to Jin Xiaomei, letting her know that this was the highest priority order at present, and it was basically a relationship. To the point where the existence of the earth is as important as its destruction, it must be done as soon as possible. Lu Chang'an ignored her, let alone thinking that 1 minute she was trying to punch and kick him, and the next minute she was enjoying herself. He felt that Zhou Shuling had tried too hard to lose weight recently, especially when she was with Li Hongfang. It was probably because Zhou Shuling had seen An Nuan a few times recently and was envious of An Nuan's girlish and perfect figure, so she was there again secretly vowed to work hard to become like An Nuan. Women are always like this. Sometimes they are proud of their figure, and sometimes they feel that they can be improved everywhere, especially after seeing the person they envy. As an ordinary man, Lu Chang'an has an ordinary aesthetic appreciation of female figures. As long as they look good, they can be plump, light, delicate, slender, or full of desires. Zhou Shuling just doesn't understand that her biggest attraction to men like All-Stars and Michael Jiaoming is her sense of a virtuous and gentle young woman. If she has to rely on other people's sense of girliness, she will lose her true nature. Considering that he wanted her to be a stupid little mother in peace, Lu Chang'an planned to cook tonight and use a sumptuous meal of high-fat, high-protein, and high-cholesterol food to make her lose all her previous efforts. So Lu Chang'an called Zhou Shuling, I will cook tonight and come back for dinner later. After hanging up the phone, Lu Chang'an walked into the kitchen, followed by Zhu Huntang. It's really annoying, like a little tail. How about I call mom over for dinner? Zhu Huntang suddenly had an idea. As the steadfast general and leader of the bamboo family in the old man's harem, she must do something to prove her ability and importance, lest Mrs. Susan be tempted to try to break away from Zhu Huntang's guidance and make her own decisions. Every time Mrs. Susan makes her own decisions, it makes Zhu Huntang feel a sense of crisis. This woman likes to be self-righteous. Even if she was once relegated to the cold palace and became an Antarctic, she never regrets it. From time to time, she will question Zhu Huntang like standing on the roof pouring water. Wise arrangement. Eating in such a shabby little room can enhance the family atmosphere, which is similar to going to an amusement park together. Thinking like this, before Lu Chang'an agreed, Zhu Huntang had already imitated Shang Guandandan and walked around, nodding and praising himself for his wisdom and martial prowess. Is she used to eating? In this ordinary 19 years of life, Mrs. Susan was the most pompous woman Lu Chang'an had ever seen, surpassing Zhu Huntang. If you are willing to take one mouthful and feed it to her, she will be willing to eat even pig feed, Zhu Huntang said with great certainty. She has an insight into people's hearts and knows the Antarctic people's mentality well. Do you believe that I will feed you pig feed later? Lu Chang'an said angrily. Zhu Huntang did not care about brazenly arranging her mother. She was also keen on scolding Lu Chang'an in secret. She just wanted to say let go. Lu Chang'an and Su Mei eat pig feed together. You treat me like a baby, chew me up and then feed me mouth to mouth, right? Zhu Huntang said delicately, then imagined the scene and felt a little disgusted, and immediately frowned. No, I'm like this fairy baby, I can't be tainted by your saliva, you'd better feed my mother. After saying that, Zhu Huntang was a little worried that Lu Chang'an would pick up something and stuff it into her mouth. He quickly ran out of the kitchen with his hands behind his back. When he got out of the door, he straightened his arms, raised his palms, and fled quickly. She didn't escape too far, she just ran to the balcony. This is because most parents beat their children like this. They hit the child casually within his reach, but when he runs far away, he is too lazy to catch up and beat the child. This is the truth that Zhu Huntang came to by observing Zhou Shuling beating Zhou Dongdong. It is basically on the same level as the theories invented by Newton and Einstein. Lu Chang'an took a carrot and followed her to the kitchen door. Seeing that she had already escaped, he didn't bother to waste time. If she ran slower, he would have to throw the carrot into her mouth. Zhu Huntang stood on the balcony without offense and called his mother. As expected, the Antarctic man nodded in agreement after asking about the time. It's all in my plan. Zhu Huntang Yang was proud. He suddenly remembered that he came to see Lu Chang'an last year. He was sitting here demolishing the bricks of the balcony fence. Zhu Huntang even slipped and fell from the upstairs. Fortunately, he grabbed his feet and lifted him up. Otherwise, he would have hit his head and might have lost 1%, no, 1% in 100 million of his intelligence. He would not be able to become the Zujbiba holding the spider like he is now. Sister Xiaotang, can your mother have 3 bowls of rice? Zhou Dongdong sat on the leather deer next to him and ate. He always felt that he had just washed his hands. If he didn't take the opportunity to grab something to eat, he would be sorry for the cleanliness. Little hands. If it's not about hygiene when eating, why do we need to wash our hands? Zhou Dongdong, like Sister Dandan, likes to touch everywhere, and his hands will always get dirty quickly. No, Zhu Huntang frowned. In Lu Chang'an's eyes, her mother was just like her, a waste who only ate 1 bowl of rice a meal. Then let your mother eat 3 bowls of rice. Brother Chang'an doesn't like people who eat less. If she eats a lot, Brother Chang'an will call her to come for dinner next time. Zhou Dongdong finished a piece of durian. Layer, he said while licking his fingers. Zhu Huntang couldn't help but feel like someone was trying to fill in the gaps. It seemed that even Zujmi, who was holding the spider like himself, couldn't do the perfect calculation. If you are a man, you will naturally have the perfect eyes, but as a woman, you will have the perfect scripture, ha ha ha. Zhu Huntang thought about it and suddenly laughed. As for Dongdong, she is worthy of being a saint. She can temporarily overpower Zhu Huntang, so she should not be underestimated. Zhu Huntang took out his mobile phone and sent a text message to his mother, asking her to drink less water and eat less later, and eat more when she comes to eat. At that time, Zhu Huntang will act like an anorexic baby and ask Lu Chang'an to feed her, and at the same time set off her mother. It feels very delicious, which not only enhances the family atmosphere, but also adds sparkle to the image of the mother. Well, at such a young age, I have already shouldered the arduous task of maintaining the family. This is probably what the ancients said about the generals of heaven. Forget it, it's too long and I don't want to say such a long story. At this time, Shangguan Dandan finished looking through Zhou Dongdong's primary school student homework. Feeling a little dizzy and uncomfortable, he staggered upstairs with his skirt in hand. As soon as he entered the door, he heard movement in the kitchen. Shangguan Dandan knew that Zhou Shuling had not come back yet, so there was no doubt that Lu Chang'an was in the kitchen at this moment. The kitchen where Lu Chang'an was present was basically a dangerous place like the void forbidden zone in the novels Shang Guandandan read. Shang Guandandan is not an old Yuanying monster, nor is she a great cultivator of the god transformation. She is just a weak little girl who has no strength and knows nothing. She simply does not dare to break into such a forbidden area. She quickly leans against the wall and tries to stay away from the kitchen. Walk to Zhu Huntang. Xiao Tang, let's go out to play for a while first. Go shopping in supermarkets, snack shops, snack streets, and other places, and then come back after dinner. Shang Guandandan tilted his head and thought for a while. It would be better to teleport away from the forbidden area. Where are you going to play? Zhou Dongdong quickly grabbed Pai Xiaolu's horns and kicked his feet closer to Sister Xiaotang and Dandan. Okay, we are the kind of children who usually don't obey at all and have to play outside until we get hungry before going home. Zhu Huntang nodded and snapped his fingers. The bread people quickly flew Zhu Huntang's favorite low-altitude aircraft by remote control outside the balcony. Zhu Huntang jumped up with Shang Guandandan and Zhou Dongdong. Because Dan was there, Zhu Huntang did not ask for a helicopter to be there. There are 3 people tied with ropes in the sky. Happy Dragon Boat Festival everyone, here's an extra chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 1113. Zhu Huntang has done a lot of research on the history of the Spring and Autumn period and the Warring States period, which originated from her reading of Sun Qinji. Therefore, I became interested in another book, The Legend of Two Dragons of the Tang Dynasty by the same author. After casually flipping through it, I naturally have a certain understanding and thinking about the history of the Tang Dynasty. Lu Yuang gave her a class, which involved the historical and cultural knowledge of the Tang Dynasty, which was also the focus of the explanation. Why was Li Shimin able to kill Li Yuanba in Tiananmen and finally force Li Yuan to give up his throne? It was because he had many accomplices. I personally recommended the 2 new elders of Zhou Fenglai sword section to me. They are just like Cao Zun and Su Xiling. To Li Shimin, Zhu Huntang explained plainly why he wanted to further expand his strength. Ever since he learned that Li Shimin had ousted his father from the throne and became the emperor himself, Zhu Huntang regarded Li Shimin as a person to learn from. Li Shimin later became the Khan of Heaven, further expanding the power of the Tang Dynasty, and his historical status was far superior to that of his father Li Yuan, which proved how correct it was to drive his father away and ascend to the throne. Bai Hui blinked her eyes and saw that Lu Chang'an's pants were a little dirty. She was afraid that he would also dirty his beloved car, so he unbuckled his seat belt, took a wet tissue and turned around to wipe his pants attentively. She really wanted to join the 9 provinces Fenglai sword sect, but she was not very good at dealing with Lu Chang'an, so she could only leave it to Zhu Huntang. Therefore, what Zhu Huntang said was messy, and Bai Hui could only resist the temptation to correct it, so as not to interfere. It's time for Zhu Huntang's persuasive effect. It's really strange to think about it. Most people can't reason with Lu Chang'an seriously, but Zhu Huntang's nonsense is actually able to deal with Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an was silent for a long time. When Zhu Huntang was about to speak again, Lu Chang'an decided to correct her. There was no way, education was to be exposed to the eyes and ears in daily life. See where she was, and let these wrong historical knowledge go wild and let her use it, it would only lead to her, wrong cognitions become more and more solid memories that cannot be corrected in the future. First, it was the Suanwu sect incident. Second, Li Yuanba was a fictional character, and the historical prototype was Li Suanba, and he was not killed by Li Shimin. Third, Cao Zun was from the Song dynasty, the male protagonist of The Legend of Two Dragons of the Tang dynasty. The protagonist Cao Zhong, he and Su Xiling are not Li Shimin's subordinates. Lu Chang'an reached out and grabbed Zhu Huntang's ears, and then let her go. Zhu Huntang turned around and wanted to pounce on him and bite him, but Bai Hui's car didn't have enough space like her own car, which severely limited her power. Forget it, after all, it's important to deal with big things. Zhu Huntang keeps track of this account for the time being, and prepares to wait until he becomes Xian Mei, and attach the power of wind and thunder to his horns to contradict him. If he is accidentally contradicted by her, she will produce genetic material. Ball, maybe we can also cut off the threat of 3 or 4 children. Thinking of the conspiracy in his mind, Zhu Huntang felt a little relieved. The stupid Lu Chang'an had no clue about her ruthless tactics. He would only be able to react at the last moment if he was plotted to usurp the throne in the future, just like Li Yuan. He watched in stunned silence as Li Shimin, Cao Zun, and Su Xiling stood in front of him and said, "Dad, please leave this world to your children." When Bai Hui heard Zhu Huntang's eyes looking somewhere, and a malicious laugh of hee coming from her mouth, she quickly pushed her and continued talking about business, and she didn't know what bad things she was thinking of. In short, what you said is not important. What is important is this principle: you have to look beyond the surface to see the essence. What you said is just ignoring the basics and chasing the last. Do you understand this idiom? I don't understand. Lu Chang'an looked at her coldly. The synonym of abandoning one's roots and chasing the last is to carve a boat and seek a sword. Lu Chang'an couldn't bear it anymore, opened the door and got out of the car. Bai Hui quickly got out of the car, walked around in a circle, trotted to catch up, and pushed Lu Chang'an back. It was a major matter for her to join the Zhu Fenglai sword clan. Bai Hui couldn't do anything without her, even though Zhu Huntang said, after she joined, Bai Hui didn't quite understand some of the times when she contributed. She was just a little shy and had expectations born out of curiosity. You want to compare me to Li Yuan, right? Lu Chang'an sat back in the car and tried to intimidate Zhu Huntang. Li Yuan had 11 children before he started the army, and then he gave birth to 30 more. Zhu Huntang was stunned involuntarily. She had never heard of this. It seems that when it comes to history, the bad old man is still better than me. One Lu Qianqian has already made Zhu Huntang feel like he is facing a formidable enemy. If there were 30 or 40 younger sisters, they would follow him in groups and shout "Baa Baa" at him loudly. It would be a bit happy to think about this scene. Some jumped on his head and pulled sheep dung balls, some shouted loudly in his ears, some pushed his butt, and some rubbed against his legs. No, no matter how happy he is, he can't let him give birth to so many sisters. Zhu Huntang is keen on setting up a harem for him, mainly because it is difficult for him to give birth to children, but it can distract him. It is definitely not to let him create more and himself the heir to the position of sect leader. However, this matter can be discussed in the long term. After all, it is not easy for him to have so many daughters. The top priority is to let Zhu Huntang seek to usurp the throne. Li Yuan has so many children, what is the use in the end? No one can shake Li Shimin's position as emperor. Is Zhu Huntang inferior to Li Shimin? Zhu Huntang still has this little bit of confidence. Today's focus is that Bai Hui will join the Zhu Fenglai sword sect as an elder. As for the child born between you and Bai Hui in the future, well, it will probably be called Lu Xiaobaizu or something like that. The competition between Lu Xiaobaizu and me, let's talk about it later. After thinking about it, Zhu Huntang resisted the intimidation brought by Lu Chang'an's human wave tactics. It's disgusting. I won't. Bai Hui couldn't accept it at all, and raised his hands to press his blushing cheeks, whose child would be called Little White Pig. Lu Xiaobaixian. Don't want. Lu Xiao Xiao? It's settled. What? Anyway, I want to be Lu Xiaoxiao's godmother. Of course godmother can. Where did you go? Don't keep talking nonsense. Bai Hui clenched her small fist and beat Zhu Huntang's shoulder. The pure girl was always so shy when talking about this kind of topic. An unstoppable gesture, while sneaking a peek at his reaction. Wait a minute, Lu Chang'an raised his hand to interrupt the conversation that was getting further and further. To join the 9 provinces Fenglai sword sect, the most important thing is to have superpowers. Bai Hui doesn't have any superpowers. The growth and development status of the body parts is good, or excellent, and it cannot be regarded as a superpower. If this is a superpower, then if you only train the upper body but not the legs in the gym, and only train the buttocks but not other parts, the body parts will look like they are all very developed. Can they be considered superpowers? Lu Chang'an stopped Zhu Huntang from talking about Bai Hui's obvious secondary sexual characteristics. I actually have superpowers. Bai Hui finished speaking, then puffed up her cheeks, as if she was forced to reveal the secret. What superpower? Zhu Huntang was very interested. Although the most important ability of everyone in the sect is the ability to compete for favor, it is also a good thing to have other abilities. Bai Hui took out her mobile phone and played a video from a TV series about a person with special powers who used mind control interrogation to make others reveal information. I'm not that strong, but I can do it more or less. Bai Hui put the phone back on his chest and at the same time used the action of lifting his clothes to distract him and lower his vigilance with his super fierce ability. If you have such ability, no matter you are strong or weak, I will consider you to have superpowers. Lu Chang'an sneered. Brain control or mind control, he has only seen similar methods in Shangguan Dandan. Shangguan Dandan stares at others, shows the majesty in his eyes, and takes away other people's gifts and gifts. It refers to the fact that Shangguan Dandan can make everyone enter dreamland, but it is not the kind of ability that can completely control others. Zhu Huntang always wants Lu Chang'an to turn into a walking zombie who only loves her. She also has a similar ability requirement, but she obviously doesn't have it. White Fennel is there. But Bai Hui was confident, looking out the window with her head held high, and then picked a person to show off her abilities. Handsome guy, can you tell me your mobile phone number? 2008082300618. Okay, thank you, bye. Ha 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 ha. Zhu Huntang couldn't help but laugh. The pig-headed strategist is the pig-headed strategist. Although he is not as witty as the Zhujmime strategist holding the spider, he is still a strategist after all, and he hesitated for a while. She demonstrated the ability to get others to reveal information, and she also demonstrated the ability to come and go when called upon. After Zhu Huntang realized this, he quickly explained Bai Hui's superpowers. Do you think there is something wrong with my brain, or do you think there is something wrong with your own brain? Lu Chang'an folded his hands on his chest and looked at the pig and the sheep in disbelief. You are fooling me like this. Bai Hui got off the driver's seat again, walked to the back compartment, lifted her skirt and knelt on the back seat, clasped her hands together and bowed, her eyelashes fluttering, her eyes like black rocks washed by water at night. The moist and dim light overflowed. Sir Master, please let me join the 9 provinces Fengling sword sect. Wipe. Zhu Huntang's eyes lit up, and the little white pig finally understood. The old man usually refuses to eat, but the soft and cute girl begged him softly, and he always ate it. Hey, Lu Chang'an sighed and thought about the current Zhu Fenglai sword section. The main execution force is actually himself and Li Hongfang, plus Qin Yinan and Shangguan Dandan who can occasionally play a role. The rest are just a group of playful creatures. Bai Lu Chang'an prolonged his tone and at the same time pronounced the exclamation mark as the letter I to express his reluctance. Bai Hui raised her hands and patted the mat several times, happily and smiling broadly. Zhu Huntang also straightened his body and puffed up his cheeks, making his whole body look swollen a little, indicating that the power belonging to Biya had increased again. However, I cannot serve as the elder of Zhu Fenglai sword section like Zhu Huntang. They now belong to the ranks of saint protectors. Lu Chang'an gathered the 3 protectors of pig, dog, and sheep for Zhou Dongdong. Okay, Bai Hui nodded hastily. In this regard, she has no intention of fighting for power. Unless there is someone named An in the family in the future, no, her good friend, and the person named Cheng, will join in. Bai Hui will pay attention to it. Everyone's seating arrangements and so on. It's not a personal statement, it's mainly because everyone is like this. They don't care about the achievements of strangers. Only people they know will care about each other. But, Xiao Tang, why are you a protector like me? Bai Hui was puzzled. She thought that Zhu Huntang must be inferior to one person and superior to 10,000 people. Usually when she talked about the 9 provinces Fenglai sword sect, she thought it seems that the position of deputy sect leader is easily available, and he is ready to ride on Lu Chang'an's head and dominate him. When I join the party, I will be a saint. Didn't you see that Yan Qingcheng has already written the application form for me? Zhu Huntang was a little embarrassed and emphasized loudly, from the time I entered the party to now, it can be said that I have been promoted continuously. The third level can be said to be 3 ups and downs. From an ordinary gang member to an intern gang member, he was fired again, he joined again and was promoted to a saint protector, and then to a protector. Hey, old man, I have become a protector. Don't forget. As Zhu Huntang said, she almost forgot that because her status was too noble, she often didn't care about titles and titles. Who knew she was almost demoted by Lu Chang'an again? It's nothing. Lu Chang'an shook his head. That time, a wild boar crashed into Sunangziu's old Rolls-Royce Phantom. I took the wild boar away and she asked me to compensate. You help clean up the aftermath and ask to be promoted to Jizhu. Saint Protector of Fenglai Sword Sect, I just called you Bamboo Protector, but you are still just Saint Protector. Chapter 262 of Volume 3. Is that so? Zhu Huntang couldn't remember clearly. It seemed that before that, she was just a fat sheep. I say yes, and no. Lu Chang'an had to let her understand that it was still him who had the final say on the 9 provinces Fenglai Sword Sect. Zhu Huntang was a little disapprovingly frustrated. It didn't matter. Which of the big bosses in the past dynasties who finally reached the top didn't have the experience of climbing up from the bottom? This is the qualification that can truly make her reach the top. Some so-called outstanding talents appear to have a high position as soon as they are recruited, but they often end here in their lifetime. Let's go to class. If you skip class, you will both be expelled. Wait a minute, I have a few words with the new protector. Zhu Huntang poked Lu Chang'an away with his finger. Lu Chang'an also didn't believe that he sent her away just to escape. He walked toward the classroom with a strong confidence that dominated everything. I can't tell, you still kneel down and beg for this trick. Zhu Huntang giggled at Bai Hui. Bai Hui thought that Zhu Huntang was skipping class again, so she was shot while lying down. She was expelled immediately after struggling to join. That simply created the shortest joining history in the sect, right? I also had an idea. After all, you told me before that Lu Chang'an only resorted to this trick. If you want him to take the initiative to consider and understand girls, and arrange everything without anyone saying anything like a licking dog, that's not possible. It's possible. Bai Hui was slightly proud, feeling that significant progress had been made and that the corner had been taken away. Nothing. You've been like this for a long time. If you've been like this for a long time, there might be a gestational sac bleeding in your belly. Zhu Huntang couldn't help but sigh. What are you talking about? I'm just doing this to join the Jizhu Fenglai sword sect, not to get along with him. There are completely different differences between here and there, do you understand? Bai Hui hurriedly explained clearly. Lest Zhu Huntang think that she is ready to stick out her tongue and lick randomly. It's really rotten wood that cannot be carved. Do you know the meaning of this proverb? It means that you have outdated ideas and will never get his carving. You still want a gestational sac. Zhu Huntang hit Bai Fen several times and got out of the car. It seems that for Bai Hui to give birth to a little grasshopper Lu, and let the little grasshopper Lu bleed behind his butt, Bai Hui needs to be carefully trained. Have you ever thought that the synonym for abandoning one's roots and chasing the last is carrying a boat in search of a sword? Just bleat and be honest. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Siahua. Chapter 1114. After the two classes in the afternoon, Zhu Huntang was going to find Qin Yinan. Because the topics at noon today include the selection of Li Yuan's successor to the throne, the fight between Li Shimin and the princes, and what the name of Bai Hui's child will be, Zhu Huntang thought it could be used to find Qin Yinan to do something. Come out. For example, Qin Yinan is asked to be wary of Bai Hui. After Bai Hui is keenly aware of this wariness, he will naturally move closer to Zhu Huntang and consolidate the effect of forming a clique. Qin Yinan will also realize that Zhu Huntang is Lu Changchen's godmother and half-sister after all, and his attitude towards Zhu Huntang must change, which is also part of Zhu Huntang's design. In short, Zhu Huntang is very excited to be able to play both sides of the aisle, sow discord and stir up trouble at the same time. Lu Chang'an could tell from Zhu Huntang's expression that she had bad intentions, but he didn't bother to care about her. Anyway, she promised to attend Lu Yuwang's class after dinner at Qin Yinan's place. Lu Yuwang's class, Lu Chang'an didn't expect Professor Liu's teaching results to be as good as Yan Qingcheng. But after all, she is a well-known professor with a high level of education and accomplishments, and her daily words and deeds are also full of the temperament and heritage of an intellectual woman. With Zhu Huntang by her side, there will always be some progress under the influence of his ears and eyes. After looking at the volleyball team's official Weibo, she knew that An Nuan was actually going to participate in training today. She didn't want him to see 3 volleyball rackets on the court and 2 volleyballs jumping around. Then I won't go. After all, he is not such a superficial person. Just as he was about to go home, Yan Qingcheng called and asked where he was. After telling her about the place, she quickly ran over, walking under the mottled light and shade of trees. Her long hair was combed by the late spring wind. The girl's tall figure was very light, and her legs were wrapped in soft and close-fitting fabrics. And the slender shape, so Lu Chang'an waited for her to get closer and first suggested to her, eat more at night. Nowadays, many people are overnourished. Yan Qingcheng is not one of them. She still needs to gain more fat and distribute it reasonably in various parts of the body. It will be healthier. If the world suddenly ends in a few days, she can still rely on her own fat lasts a few more days. The probability of this is small, but it may still happen. Therefore, the old saying "be born in trouble and die in happiness" is to remind everyone to always stock up on supplies and be prepared for any disaster. Yan Qingcheng was slightly out of breath. After listening to his words, it took 3 seconds for her to react. She couldn't help but show a bright smile, with tenderness in the corners of her eyes. The care from the person she admired always made a girl born. Some happiness comes. He seems to like to cook food for people close to him. He would tell others to eat more, which should be a way to express their close relationship. Otherwise, who would care about how much others eat? Recalling the scene of everyone dining together at Nanshan Ranch, except for the special case of Zhu Huntang, Zhou Dongdong, Zhou Shuling, and Shang Guandandan, who were closest to him, were also the 3 best eaters. Okay, I plan to try the cross-ping braised pork with Lin Yuyu and the others tonight. Yan Qingcheng was obedient and nodded vigorously. Shizaping pork, their pork is very special. Lu Chang'an also nodded and praised this choice. Speaking of braised pork, I really couldn't finish talking about its taste and complicated and diverse methods for 3 days and 3 nights. Even though the braised pork world is currently dominated by the world of braised pork with pickled vegetables and braised pork with pickled vegetables, in fact, it is spread all over the country. There are many different ways to make meat, and many people have their own understanding of how to cook pork. Shandong cuisine has Zhejiang braised pork, and the Hot Pot province has sweet and salty braised pork. People in southern and western Guangdong like to steam it with taro. The most famous dish in southern Guangdong is braised pork with pickled vegetables, which is made with dried plums in Jiangsu and Zhejiang. A side dish that the literary giant claims he can't live without for the rest of his life. However, most of these pork belly cuts are made from pork belly, cut into slices or dices, while Shizupping pork belongs to the shonen type of face-saving pork belly, and the skin of the pork belly is not cut into one piece. I remember that during festivals, weddings, and funerals, meat would be served. Kill a pig, take the pig skin and cut it into evenly sized pieces. After making the pork skin, put it on the bottom of the bowl and add a lot of meat, and then put it on the steamer. In an era when materials are not abundant, you can eat meat in large quantities. The dishes make people feel extremely satisfied. They often leave their mouths full of oil and shredded meat stuffed between their teeth. My home is also close to Shizupping. I went there with my mother several times to have banquets. I was very impressed with their braised pork. When I was a child, I thought it was a bit too fatty. Now I think about it and my mouth water, Yan Qingcheng said, a little embarrassed. I guess if you go tonight, you won't be able to taste the same taste as when you were a kid. You have to eat many dishes locally to get the same taste. Lu Chang'an thought of the scene of eating on the flowing mat. You made the dishes on the flowing mat to eat at home, and you made a special trip. The feeling when you go to have a meal is completely different. The taste is definitely different. Anyway, I just want to gain weight. Eat more fat. My classmates in the dormitory said that I am indeed a little thin. Yan Qingcheng's purpose is not to taste the taste. Lu Chang'an thought, how about making braised pork tonight, and then go to the wet market or supermarket to see if he can buy pork skin, plum meat, pork belly, and other ingredients. By the way, I want you to help me deliver this to Professor Lu. Yan Qingcheng came to Lu Chang'an, of course, not just to report that she wanted to eat braised pork at night. She took out a pair of shoes from her bag, looked at them again, and then handed them over, paying attention to Lu Chang'an's expression. Lu Chang'an took it over. They were a pair of slippers made of 1,000-layer fabric. The stitching was purely handmade, and it was not a superb skill. However, each stitch was solid and precise, which was very time-consuming and labor-intensive. 1,000-layer cloth shoes are common, but slippers are still rare. Lu Chang'an couldn't help but laugh. Yan Qingcheng is quite creative in design. In autumn and winter, it is more suitable to make mil-layer cloth shoes. The ones I made are more comfortable for you to wear at home or in an air-conditioned room. When the temperature gets higher, the soles of your feet will be burned when you wear them. Yan Qingcheng raised his hand and pressed her forehead and feet. If Professor Lu doesn't like it, just throw it away for me. Seeing her swaying slightly, with a somewhat uneasy look on her face, Lu Chang'an grabbed the shoes and patted them in his palms. How could you not like them? These shoes are very suitable for Professor Liu's traditional image of a male senior intellectual. I think so too. Yan Qingcheng certainly considered this gift carefully. Hearing that Lu Chang'an also agreed, she couldn't help but feel a little excited. She even wanted to see Professor Lu wearing the shoes he gave her, the kind of warm and easygoing elegant man he wears at home. The image is just like that time when he was cooking at Teacher Chen's house. He was wearing a wide robe and long-sleeved home clothes and an apron while cooking. I'm interested. Lu Chang'an patted Yan Qingcheng's head with satisfaction. It was getting harder and harder to receive handmade gifts now, and Nuan had made clothes and scarves for him. The prevalence of consumerism and the holiday business and consumption atmosphere have made the receiving and sending of gifts very different from before. This kind of mil-layer cloth shoes is actually not expensive, but the purely handmade ones are complex in workmanship, complicated in process, difficult and time-consuming. Lu Chang'an felt that Yan Qingcheng was too thoughtful. Don't delay your studies, you must. It is not easy to make such a pair of shoes in school. I feel that it takes much more time than giving lessons to Zhu Huntang. If you use the time you spend making shoes to teach Zhu Huntang, how much will you earn in tuition fees? It can't be calculated like this. Whether something should be done or should be done cannot be calculated with money. Yan Qingcheng still knows this truth very well. That's the truth. Lu Chang'an lowered his palm slightly, stroked Yan Qingcheng's soft hair, and patted her shoulder and back gently. She was really well behaved and sensible. This is the feeling of a loving father and a filial daughter. He couldn't help but look up in the direction of Lushan Mountain, and then made up his mind that when Professor Lu Jianxi showed up, he must let the old professor give Yan Qingcheng the feeling of fatherly love he wanted. Seeing that he accepted it readily and showed a gentle feeling of love in his eyes, even though he was still Lu Chang'an in front of her, Yan Qingcheng had squinted her eyes slightly, pursed her lips and lowered her head to look at the ground. She held her hands in front of her lower abdomen, obediently and contentedly. It looks like a kitten nestled in its owner's arms in winter, letting him pet its head. Zhu Huntang sniffed, wanting to sneeze, but couldn't, and suddenly felt extremely uncomfortable. Maybe it was the reason why Qin Zici was here. Zhu Huntang thought about it casually and decided to let Qin Zici take the blame. She has now arrived at Lushan Mountain and is at Qin Yinan's house. When she went up the mountain, she did not consider that Qin Zici was also there, which made it inconvenient for Zhu Huntang to talk about many of the topics he had originally prepared. "Little sister, you stay here all the time and don't go to work," Zhu Huntang wanted to send Qin Zici away. "I'll just rest today," Qin Zici said angrily. "I had already met the third wife yesterday." The third wife meant that Li Hongfang was responsible for contacting Qin Zici. Qin Zici was unhappy with Li Hongfang, so he could only make an appointment with Li Hongfang, cancel today's schedule, and wait to meet Li Hongfang. As a result, Li Hongfang waited until noon before telling Qin Zici that she had a dream last night and was going to write a script for a movie, and used such a ridiculous reason to win over Qin Zici. Qin Zici was so angry that he simply stayed at his sister's house all day without going out. Little did he know that a particularly irritating Zhu Huntang showed up. "Are you just sitting here like a bodhisattva when you are resting? You see there is smoke coming out of your head, so you look more like the smoked bodhisattva in the temple." Zhu Huntang folded his hands in front of his chest and looked at Qin Zici leisurely. "I suggest you cultivate some virtue in speaking, so that other bodhisattvas can use it to speak well of you," Qin Zici said with a glare. "Huh? As a public official, you actually practice superstition in envelopes. I want to report you." "Go ahead. I see that your rank is low, your salary and benefits are not good, and you must not have much money. Otherwise, you go shopping. As long as you don't buy the entire 2 buildings of Bailong Center, all your consumption today will be mine. Do you believe that I led the team to seal off your Bailong Center?" After a few words with Zhu Huntang, Qin Zici suddenly felt that in terms of irritation, Zhu Huntang was still far ahead. Li Hongfang is arrogant at best, and things like flying pigeons at the same time are inevitable in the workplace, but I have never encountered anyone like Zhu Huntang. You can ban them. How many of them do I have in the country? Well, they are basically all in big cities. If you have the ability, you can ban them all. Zhu Huntang didn't take it to heart at all, not to mention Qin Zici's angry words. "Even if they were true, it's not a big deal if it's closed." Qin Zici was born in the Qin family, but her ideological level was still that of a small family, and she could not compare with her sister. If Qin Yinan threatened Zhu Huntang, it would probably be to whisper in Lu Chang'an's ears to make him stay young but not to grow up, or to say that she had absorbed enough nutrients and would give birth to Lu Changqian soon. This kind of thing frightened Zhu Huntang. "I was so scared that I just wanted to cry and roll on the ground." Sure enough, roping in 2 elders to fight against Qin Yinan was a clever move by holding an umbrella before it rained. She is just Lu Qianqian, and here are herself and Lu Xiaomun. If Professor Lu can also give birth to Lu Xiaoyu, it will be even more unstoppable. Unfortunately, neither Lu Xiaomun nor Lu Xiaomun is there. After all, Nanjiren's belly is not up to par. She still has a little Nanjiren in her belly. Does Zhu Huntang need to win over others? Lu Chang'an went to Antarctica during the Chinese New Year. The 2 of them must have done something to generate heat at a high speed, enough to melt many icebergs in Antarctica. But in the end, they didn't even produce a gestational sac. Fortunately, this faction has its own backbone to turn the tide. Otherwise, the Antarctic people might still be looking at the icebergs in Antarctica and recalling the iceberg-like coldness of the old man when they first met him. Humph, I want to seal you in the Bailong Center across the country, but I can't do it. But don't forget, you are sitting in my eyes. It's very convenient for me to seal your mouth, Qin Zisi sneered. Zhu Huntang was still a little wary about keeping his mouth shut. After all, he had experienced it many times. He was about to test whether Qin Yanan had told some embarrassing things about Zhu Huntang, but he saw Qin Yanan walking out of the bedroom with a big belly. What's wrong with you? Zhu Huntang was shocked. Is this second child really going to be born? I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 1115. Zhu Huntang has recently confirmed that Yan Qingcheng has surpassed the canned lychee and has become a lifelong enemy second only to Lu Changchun. Although Lu Qianqian is also a lifelong enemy, this enemy refers to an opponent, not hostility. This is her half-sister and goddaughter. Zhu Huntang also wants to teach her the Baa language and learn to transform into sheep with her. Then the two sisters follow the big fairy sheep and bleat loudly, running carefree on the grassland. Zhu Huntang just hopes that Lu Changchan will be born later so that she can have more time to enjoy her father's love. She didn't enjoy her father's love until she was 19 years old. This kind of thinking is not excessive. Sister, what are you doing? Qin Zisi was just stunned for a moment. Growing up together, the eldest sister naturally has a clear image in Qin Zisi's heart, but this time when she came to Junsha, she felt like a different person. It's not a complete change. I always feel that as long as she encounters things related to Lu Chang'an, she will be very abnormal, showing some behaviors and ways of thinking that Qin Zisi can't understand at all. What is she doing now? Of course Qin Zisi knew that Qin Yanan's pregnant belly was an act. When Zhu Huntang came up, Qin Yanan stayed in the bedroom. He didn't expect that he would play with this image for a while. Is it to show Zhu Huntang? Qin Zisi looked at Zhu Huntang again. Is Zhu Huntang stupid? He actually looked like he was frightened by Qin Yanan. Can you have some common sense and normal judgment? Oh, I'm so lively as I was punching and kicking in my belly. I'm sure I'll be able to run and jump when I'm born. I'll grow to 1.2 meters in 3 days, and 1.7 meters in 5 days. Qin Yanan pressed her waist. Gently she walked towards Zhu Huntang calmly, with a smile on her face, full of the graceful temperament of an elegant lady. What are you going to do when you grow to 1.7 meters? Zhu Huntang felt Qin Yanan's vague threat. He was so angry that he didn't even learn the northeastern accent. He put his hands on his hips and exuded the aura of a candidate saint of the Kyushu Fenglai sword sect, and the sinister and cunning elder. Confrontation. She knew very well that what Qin Yanan meant was that Lu Qianqian would be born soon, grow up soon, and compete with Zhu Huntang to inherit the position of sect leader. Qin Zisi looked at Zhu Huntang and then at Qin Yanan. She was 1 meter 2 in 3 days and 1 meter 7 in 5 days. Sister, are you pregnant with a dinosaur? Of course I have to study hard with Qinzi. Why don't I learn how to bark like a sheep with you? Qin Yanan couldn't help but laugh, then pulled out the fake pregnant belly from under her skirt and threw it in front of Zhu Huntang. Zhu Huntang was so angry that he kicked the fake pregnant belly away with one kick, then lowered his head and pushed towards Qin Yanan. But when he was really about to hit, Zhu Huntang had to stop his feet abruptly, fall to the side hard, and fall to the floor to avoid hitting Qin Yanan's stomach. Because after all, she is a ferocious bleater. She once almost killed her father with one palm. If she hits Qin Yanan's belly and uncontrollably bursts out with power that destroys the universe, it will be over. What are you doing? Qin Yanan wanted to laugh but was a little touched. As Zhu Huntang's best friend for many years, of course she knew why Zhu Huntang stopped in such an embarrassing way just now. She bent down to help Zhu Huntang up and let her lean against him. In arms. The first time Zhu Huntang exploded with power was in Qin Yinan's kitchen. Later, Lu Chang'an explained in the circle of friends that Zhu Huntang could not control the power. Qin Yinan was still a little worried when he saw Zhu Huntang crashing into him. Even Lu Chang'an could be beaten by her. He was knocked into the air. Why didn't he smash through the ceiling and fly into the Xiangjiang River? You stupid woman, what's the use of studying? Children just want to be happy, and screaming with me is happy. You want to give her a childhood where she doesn't have to study. Zhu Huntang looked at Qin Yinan with an angry look. If you study with Yan Qingcheng, you will only be able to get into Hunan University at most, but with Zhu Huntang, you can learn how to become your father's most beloved baby. Except for you, no one does not need to study in childhood. Qin Yinan did not agree with Zhu Huntang's view. Zhu Huntang's current study attitude is so sluggish and his grades are so poor. It is definitely not a result of overnight success. It is because Sumei has been overindulging and pampering since she was a child. Qin Yinan had wondered at the beginning. The Zhu family was also a scholarly family with a long history. Why was Mrs. Zhu San so uninterested in cultivating Zhu Huntang? Now, of course, we know that Sumei is not in a hurry to cultivate an heir and can extend Zhu Huntang's carefree childhood for who knows how many times longer than an ordinary person. In the eyes of ordinary people, Zhu Huntang is now an adult, but in fact, in Sumei's life plan, Zhu Huntang is still in her infancy, and Zhu Sansui is a nickname that suits her very well. In terms of parenting concepts, Qin Yinan has her own ideas, and she will discuss and decide with Lu Chang'an. She will not listen to or accept any reference or suggestion from Sumei and Zhu Huntang. Chang Qian, you are so pitiful. My sister has tried her best to help you. Zhu Huntang leaned comfortably in Qin Yinan's arms and touched Qin Yinan's abdomen, sympathizing with Lu Qian. She will definitely become a person who only knows how to study in the future. The Walking Dead. Qin Zizi sat aside and was very confused. The eldest sister was pretending to be pregnant. When Zhu Huntang saw it, why did she act like she had a big grudge? Who are they talking about? Why does Zhu Huntang call herself Qian's sister? If this Qian is my sister's child, how can she be Zhu Huntang's sister? Qin Zizi felt that her mind was confused, and her intuition told her that it was best not to ask. They might not be able to tell if she asked, and Qin Zizi might not be able to understand if she did. In short, one thing that is certain is that the eldest sister is probably assimilated by Zhu Huntang, so she will gradually have brain problems, and her competitiveness within the Qin family will be greatly reduced. Anyway, based on current observations, it seems that the eldest sister has lost the will to inherit some of the resources of the Qin family and make great achievements within the system. I want to stay away from these two people. Qin Zizi suddenly felt a sense of crisis, got up, took his bag and went down the mountain. Qin Zizi went directly to Li Hongfang. When I focused on Li Hongfang a few days ago, I collected all the relevant information about her in Junxia, including the design drawings of Li Hongfang's plan to transform the textile factory into a loft-style commercial and residential building, the long-term private room agreement she signed with the hotel, and her plan to reserve a room for a girl named Mu Qing as a studio. This information they were all sent to Qin Zizi. It can be said that she knows better than Lu Chang'an about Li Hongfang's recent activities in Junxia. It is naturally easy to block Li Hongfang's door now. There are not many high-end hotels at the foot of Lushan Mountain. It can be said that in 2018, there were not many luxury brand hotels in the whole county. In the following years, they mushroomed like mushrooms after a rain. However, I don't know how the relevant practitioners will reflect on this a few years later. What is it like to conduct hotel layout development and industry analysis with confidence? As things change, no one can say for sure, but maybe the future can be expected. Optimists make progress while conservatives keep things. In many cases, people's so-called vision and big data analysis are no match for the word luck. Or maybe the vast majority of people are unable to obtain sufficiently long-term and accurate information, so they can only attribute future results or failures to luck. Qin Ziyi passed through the university town at the foot of Lushan Mountain. The various scenes on campus always make people who have enough experience outside the campus feel a lot of emotion. However, in Qin Ziyi's eyes, compared to the choices that Qin Yanan can make, Hunan University will eventually somewhat ordinary. Li Hongfang could have stayed in more luxurious hotels in other areas, but she chose a relatively ordinary hotel at the foot of Lushan Mountain. Perhaps one of the reasons was that it was very close to Lu Chang'an's school. These people all revolve around Lu Chang'an. Many times, if what you want to do, your job, and the people you want to contact, all revolve around a certain center, you have to enter this orbit. Qin Ziyi felt that as her work gradually unfolded, her situation might be the same. She resisted this viscerally. It's not that she dislikes Lu Chang'an, but she has discovered that Lu Chang'an has interfered with her original intention. She cannot set a goal and then formulate a work plan and execute the task with herself as the core like before. If she had to enter the orbit centered around Lu Chang'an in order to start her work, then she might have unintentionally distorted her will and become a vassal without knowing it. Qin Ziyi was also motivated by looking for Li Hongfang. You must know that she was targeting Li Hongfang in the first place. However, after meeting Lu Chang'an in the Martyrs Park during the Qingming festival, after listening to his words, she felt that her investigation of Li Hongfang was just looking for trouble. Tuk tuk. Knocked on the door. Li Hongfang came over to open the door and turned around and walked into the room without looking at Qin Ziyi. Qin Ziyi followed and closed the door behind her back. I saw Li Hongfang wearing a set of loose white pajamas, with her hair messily tied on her head, and a pair of big black glasses. She was holding a ballpoint pen and a volume of manuscript in her hand, and was muttering to herself. Qin Ziyi almost thought that he was going to be seen as a frustrated screenwriter, novelist, magazine writer, and self-media practitioner instead of a suspect related to a major murder case. By the way, the tomb robbing element must be added. The hero and heroine hide in a huge coffin. The coffin contains a kitchen, living room, study room, bedroom, gym, sex toy display and trial area, but there is only one bed. This bed can restore physical strength and increase sexual desire. If you sleep elsewhere, your body will show symptoms of corpse transformation. Well, the trial area is controlled by a zombie beauty with a well-preserved body. After she absorbs the male protagonist's body fluids, she will gradually regaining strength general level zombie king. After Li Hongfang finished speaking, she sat behind the table and wrote hard. Her computer was open to search for information, but the story was written by hand. Qin Ziyi stood behind Li Hongfang and opened her skull to see what nonsense she was thinking. Out of personal cultivation and etiquette, Qin Ziyi didn't want to interrupt Li Hongfang when he saw Li Hongfang concentrating on her writing. However, thinking about what she had written, he felt that it didn't matter if he interrupted her. Is this what he was doing? After thinking about it, Qin Ziyi sat down and took out some information on the Human Transformation Project from his bag and started reading it, preparing to discuss cooperation matters with Li Hongfang later. This project attracted the attention of many high-level officials, but because of the relationship between great-grandfather and the Zhu family, it eventually fell into the hands of the Qin family. It wasn't that no one else had reached out and was discounted. In addition, the Zhu family only gave face to his great-grandfather, so Qin Ziyi was able to firmly grasp this project in his hands even though he was young and inexperienced. Face is given to each other, and it is precisely because of this that Qin Ziyi endured the irritating Zhu Huntang. Faced with Li Hongfang, just bear with it, who made her the third wife's designated candidate now. What Qin Ziyi doesn't understand is that there are so many elites under the third wife's command. Anyone can be more reliable than Li Hongfang. Why did the third wife put you in charge? Qin Ziyi asked unexpectedly when he saw that Li Hongfang was completely immersed in her story. Because I belong to Brother Lu, Li Hongfang blurted out, then came back to his senses, glanced at Qin Zici, and sighed, "Why are you trying to trick me? Could it be that if you know the reason, you can still find a way to get the third wife to replace her? Let me tell you, as long as I am from Brother Lu, even if you call the old man of your Qin family, the third wife will not give you this face. I don't know if the third wife will give you this face. But I think you, Brother Lu, give my great-grandfather face. You always use my great-grandfather to talk about things. Aren't you afraid that your Brother Lu will deal with you?" Qin Zici said coldly. She said that the last time they met at the milk tea shop, she had already seen that Lu Chang'an was very protective of the Qin family, especially his great-grandfather. Li Hongfang frowned. When she thought about Brother Lu taking care of her, if he was allowed to show off his skills in some trial area like the story she was writing now, he couldn't help but feel excited. He laughed twice, and inspiration surged out. He quickly put his legs together, sat upright, and continued to write furiously. The big guys were indeed right, love is the driving force for creating civilization and the source of inspiration. Qin Zici clenched the information in his hand, raised his hand and pressed his forehead. Just as he was thinking about whether to wait patiently, he heard another knock on the door. "Open the door for me," Li Hongfang said without raising her head. Qin Zici was about to leave when he got up and opened the door, only to see a tall woman standing outside the door, staring down at Qin Zici. What surprised Qin Zici was that the figure of this woman was almost exactly the same as that of her eldest sister, and even her appearance was a bit similar. By the way, she also looked a bit like that little girl who was always bossing around as if she was very noble. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 1116. Girls over 1.8 meters tall are quite rare in both the south and the north. They tend to be concentrated in the modeling and sports circles, and are much rarer than the little fairies who hang out on Weibo and various social media. What's more, she has a figure that looks like a luxurious work of art, with a full and plump upper body, a slim and light waist, and a pair of straight and toned long legs. She looks like a carefully designed character in a Meizai game, which can satisfy men. The ultimate fantasy. I'm sorry to bother you, I didn't expect you were all here. The woman walked in and looked at Qin Zici and Li Hongfang. She was a bit condescending. After all, even the taller Qin Zici looked like a little bird in front of her, let alone Li Hongfang. Who are you? Qin Zici originally thought that the other party was just looking for Li Hongfang. She is a strange beast. Li Hongfang finally put down the pen in her hand, looked at the woman who walked in the door with sharp eyes, and stood with Qin Zici. Although Li Hongfang hates Qin Zici, they are just human beings, especially the internal conflicts between the various forces united around Brother Lu. Facing alien beasts, it is a racial conflict. In this case, it is natural to unite to the outside world. As for whether Qin Zici would think that she was also a force united around Brother Lu, Li Hongfang didn't care much. Anyway, Qin Zici was just a child of the Qin family. His words didn't mean much, and they didn't carry much weight. The focus was still on the eldest son of her family, Qin Peng. Mean. Qin Zici looked at the woman in front of him again. After most of the alien beasts transformed, they looked the same as humans in appearance, but they often showed a strange temperament. For example, their skin was particularly white and delicate, and their eyes often had it glowed with an extraordinarily bright light, just like humans who always wear contact lenses. In addition, the man was thin and tall, with sharp curves at the corners of his eyes and mouth. These are subjective judgment characteristics and cannot really be used as criteria for judging alien beasts. Qin Zici is curious about why Li Hongfang can directly recognize that the other party is an alien beast. Exotic beast? This is such an arrogant title. When your ancestors knelt down before us, they always called the gods. The woman sneered, and the volleyball in her palm flicked, then kept spinning on her index finger. If you look at the sportswear you are wearing, the sneakers co-branded by Nike and Donkey brand, and the modern industrial products you are playing with in your hands, you should know that this is not what it used to be. My lord, times have changed. Li Hongfang also sneered. Just want Li Hongfang to kneel down and worship a mere exotic beast? From now on, Li Hongfang will only worship the great brother Lu. As for the encounter with strange beasts at the beginning, even the water monkey was a little scared. It is already a thing of the past and there is no need to mention it again. Just now you said, you are all here. Does that mean you would have come to us separately? Qin Zici said to the woman. She didn't want to show off her quick words and compete with the strange beasts in terms of words. She came to Junxia to solve some problems, not to provoke more problems. As long as these alien beasts are not really trying to ride on humans and dominate, Qin Zici will not say anything that their ancestors have said. To care. As for Li Hongfang's attitude, Qin Zici had no control over it. Anyway, if Li Hongfang really caused trouble, Lu Chang'an would take care of her. Or for Qin Zici, she even prefers that Li Hongfang really causes some trouble, and then Lu Chang'an gets involved. Anyway, having Lu Chang'an involved is a little better than working with Li Hongfang. As for how to avoid solving the problem with Lu Chang'an as the core, that is another story. Yes. One of you is an official organization representing human beings, and the other represents a certain kind of personal force. Both of you have not so kind intentions towards the existence of our divine race. The woman answered Qin Zici's question, but her eyes always fell on Li Hongfang. If you just keep to yourself, how could we be malicious? Qin Zi thought about the murder of Fui Vegetable Company, and his eyes suddenly turned cold. According to the investigation, the people of Fui Vegetable Company are indeed innocent, but it is not the turn of alien beasts to take action. We neither killed people nor set fire, nor did we burn, kill, or loot. At most, there were a few worthless people doing flesh and blood business. Where our God clan is, there are even fewer fights. It can be regarded as self-denial, abiding by the law and maintaining public order. The woman looked at Qin Zici inexplicably. Take the Jifang West Bar Street, where the gods often hang out, as an example. There are countless social security incidents in this place, but if the gods are involved, they can often make the other party very restrained. Ha ha ha. Li Hongfang turned around and laughed a few times, which fell in Qin Zici's ears. Naturally, he felt that she was mocking the woman's remarks because of the family murder case of Fui Vegetable Company. As for the woman who found it inexplicable, she didn't need to pay much attention to it. You want to say that, haha, Qin Zici sneered, but today alone, even with Li Hongfang, is not suitable for conflict with these strange beasts. Qin Zici calmed down and asked solemnly, you seem to know something about us, we know nothing about you. Are you a leader among the strange beasts? After saying that, Qin Zici glanced at Li Hongfang. In recent days, Qin Zici's attention to strange beasts has been focused on the guys in the Women's Health Club. This was the first time he saw a strange beast in the form of a woman. Li Hongfang was able to tell the identity of the other beast at a glance. I guess I know more. East King Phoenix. Qin Zici and Li Hongfang looked at each other. Neither of them had heard of this name from past myths, legends, and cultural systems. I know that you have a book called the Book of Mountains and Seas, which records the existence of many gods. It's just that in the era of the rise of the gods, I have not yet awakened. Dong Wang Huang raised his head slightly, with a trace of amusement in his eyes. These people in front of them regard the ancient Protoss as an antique that has been disconnected from history for thousands of years, as if the Protoss is an ancient tomb they dug, and they took out something that has not seen the light of day for countless years. It is ancient and mysterious, and at the same time it is something behind the times. Human beings today are so arrogant, After the disappearance of the gods, they had not ruled the world for many years, but they had developed extreme arrogance. In other words, I don't know the past entanglements between humans and the gods, and I don't have deep obsessions or emotions about that period of history. And for you humans, a leader of the gods like me is the most suitable dong. After Wang Huang finished speaking, he sat down minding his own business. She put the volleyball on the sofa, crossed one of her long legs, and leaned back lazily. Due to the tilt of her body, the shape of her chest clothes also changed, but she still exuded a majestic momentum, especially when Li Hongfang and Li Hongfang were watching. Qin Zici was filled with a sense of superiority and oppression. According to Dong Wanghuang's understanding, human women often have different psychological advantages or disadvantages due to the degree of fat development, which is really interesting. Dong Wanghuang's current figure and appearance are derived from the ancient inheritance in her bloodline, and are not deliberately shaped like this to cater to the aesthetics and pursuits of today's humans. In the era of the rise of the gods, you have not yet awakened. In other words, you are a newly born god, so why do you become the leader of the gods? Li Hongfang asked curiously. Is it because you are a woman? Li Hongfang has only seen 2 female beasts so far, one of which is the mirage. If Brother Lu hadn't been too outrageous, the mirage should be very powerful, capable of controlling wind and rain, and at least Li Hongfang would definitely not be able to deal with it. If the one in front of me, who calls himself Dong Wanghuang, is more powerful than the mirage, he is indeed qualified to become the leader of the strange beasts, but he just doesn't know how many moves he can hold up in front of Brother Lu. Because I am the strongest. After Dong Wanghuang finished speaking, he stood up and walked out the door. Today I just stopped by to say hello. I have a training camp to attend later. In the new era, I hope humans can learn live in harmony with the gods, and I look forward to your role in the future integration process. Watching Dong Wanghuang leave after saying a few words, Qin Zici walked to the door and glanced at Dong Wanghuang's leaving figure before closing the door and turning back to face Li Hongfang. This bitch came here, and it's definitely more than just saying hello. Li Hongfang was not in the mood to write a novel for the time being, so she said to Qin Zici with certainty. Doggy. This title made Qin Zici hesitate to speak. Why did Li Hongfang speak with such quality? How come Dong Wanghuang is also the leader of the alien beasts and has a certain status and strength, so why can't Li Hongfang respect others? She decided not to worry about Li Hongfang's quality, and took a deep breath. What should I say? She must have wanted to do something, such as kidnapping one of us, or showing her hand to scare us, or some other conspiracy, but she discovered something at the last moment, changed her strategy, and left after a few perfunctory words. Li Hongfang glanced at Qin Zici and said, for Brother Liu's sake, let me remind you that you can be a little less powerful, but you can't be less thoughtful. She said she is the leader, but I see those strange beasts in the women's health club. It's definitely not the same as her. Why do you see it? Qin Zici really didn't think about this. It's very simple. In the ancient times, were all the strange beasts recorded in the Book of Mountains and Seas a group. They all sat on the top of the mountain and became kings. Because times have changed, and they temporarily stayed together to survive, but there was no internal balance. Forming a clique? Impossible. Li Hongfang thought about the situation of Zhuzhu Fenglai sword sect. There are only a handful of people in the section. Generally speaking, they should be united under Brother Lu, but obviously there are also factions. For example, Li Hongfang, the sect leader's personal follower, elite disciple, and the number 1 bitch, has nothing to do with Qin Yinan. Everyone wants to serve Brother Lu, keep him warm and lustful women, and they are fighting openly and secretly, let alone those strange beasts. Only ghosts believe that they will unite under the command of Dong Wanghuang. That's true. Just like now my main task is to deal with the strange beasts in Juncha, but it doesn't mean that I will remove you from the list of suspects in the Fui Vegetable Company tragedy. Qin Zici nodded with deep understanding. It's up to you. Li Hongfang didn't mind. Didn't she also suggest that brother Lu kill Qin Zisi whenever she had the chance? Anyway, now she is following up on the human transformation project on behalf of the third wife and Qin Zisi, which is equivalent to having a semi-official status. As long as Qin Zisi understands the general situation and puts the overall situation first, it is unlikely that he will deal with Li Hongfang during the cooperation period. Lu Chang'an put the shoes given by Yan Qingcheng in his bag and walked slowly home. Recently, I have spent less time measuring the city with the soles of my feet. Only by stepping on every corner and corner can I become familiar with the city. This was all Zhu Huntang's fault. In order to ensure that she didn't skip school and run away halfway, Lu Chang'an had to ride in the car with her, which reduced the walking time. Lu Chang'an was not impatient when it came to supervising Zhu Huntang's schooling. After all, he had the responsibility of educating her, and he would not feel it was a waste of time to slowly polish her temperament over the past 180 years. It is impossible to give birth to a child without nurturing her, to raise her without educating her. He didn't know it before, but now that he has her by his side, he must educate her well, which is the virtue that an ordinary human parent should possess. But why can't she, Zhu Huntang, be as sweet as Yan Qingcheng? Every time he saw Yan Qingcheng's cautious way of seeking father's love and trying hard to win the attention of her elders, Lu Chang'an often felt pity for her, and even wanted to kiss her to show his care, instead of having smoke on his feet like when he was with Zhu Huntang. Nostrils on fire. A stumbling shared motorcycle drove up ahead, and a girl actually sat in the storage basket. Was she showing off her lightweight, or was she blatantly expressing her lack of quality? Lu Chang'an, a slightly familiar voice sounded from behind. Feeling that there was an acquaintance beside him, Lu Chang'an just avoided it nimbly and did not kick the shared motorcycle. He smiled and turned to the familiar voice, which turned out to be Zhao Wuqiang and his parents. Zhao Wuqiang's mother's name is Quan Loxia. When Zhao Wuqiang was hospitalized, Bai Hui called Lu Chang'an to visit her classmates, but Quan Loxia tried to blackmail Lu Chang'an. After discovering that Lu Chang'an's parents died and he was an orphan, and couldn't make a few taels of profit, Quan Loxia decided to reconcile and then went to find trouble in the scenic spot. As for how much compensation he received later, Lu Chang'an didn't know. You probably won't get much, and you won't be able to make a fortune anyway. But for people who want to make trouble and want compensation, they often just knock as much as they can, and don't take advantage of the bastard. Standing next to Zhao Wuqiang, the man with a big build but whose aura was slightly suppressed by Quan Loxia was probably Zhao Wuqiang's father. Zhao Wuqiang, seeing his old classmate, Lu Chang'an naturally greeted him warmly, showing a sincere and slightly regretful smile. The college entrance examination is about to happen again this year, so you must be careful and don't look for trouble, so as not to lose your life again. You missed the college entrance examination again. Hey, the idiom missed really fits your experience unexpectedly. I have been with you for the rest of my life but lost it. This idiom means arm touching arm, passing by. It's not like my arm was broken. How does it fit with me? Zhao Wuqiang glared at Lu Chang'an. As expected, many people looked at him. When I entered university, I completely forgot a lot of basic cultural knowledge. Lu Chang'an was shocked that he would make such a stupid mistake. Then he came to his senses. He must have been influenced by Zhu Huntang's random use of idioms. Otherwise, how could he understand that missing the hand was related to a broken arm? Lu Chang'an, don't say these useless things. At first, because you were an orphan, our family didn't care about you. Now I heard that you have become rich. The school will give you a bonus of 200,000 yuan for your bravery. So what? Is it worth 100,000 to our Xiaoqiang? Quan Loxia looked at Lu Chang'an, trying to rejudge Lu Chang'an's financial strength. That's right, without our Xiaoqiang, why would you take 200,000? Zhao Wuqiang's father stepped forward and blocked Lu Chang'an with Quan Loxia. Lu Chang'an looked at the parents and then at Zhao Yuqiang, and couldn't help but show some sympathy. He was just thinking about the issue of giving birth without raising children, and raising children without educating them. Parents are really not just for anyone. Some people should be trained and educated before having children, and get a certificate before they can work. How can people like Quan Loxia and his wife be qualified to be parents? No wonder a little beast like Zhao Yuqiang was cultivated. Lu Chang'an thought deeply about whether to put the three people in front of him into the Xiang River to feed the fish, but he saw Zhou Dongdong waving her hands left and right and jumping over, with Protector Lu following behind her. Three of you, based on your experience, you should also know that it is almost impossible to extort 100,000 yuan just by stopping someone on the road. If you are sincere and want to extort a big sum of money, I suggest you find a time, set up a battle, at least make me feel intimidated or annoyed, and I want to spend money to eliminate disaster. Seeing the child and the dog, Lu Chang'an's anger naturally dissipated a lot. He showed a gentle smile, and made sincere suggestions. Zhao Yuqiang knows my home address. Lu Chang'an cupped his hands and said, "We are waiting for the arrival of the three distinguished guests." After saying that, Lu Chang'an turned around and drove the primary school student, who had not come home from school and didn't have a few dollars in his pocket, who was still wandering around the street, back home to do his homework. It was probably a false positive last time, but this time it was a true positive, and my vitality was severely damaged. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 1117. Zhou Dongdong was carrying a big skull bag, standing on tiptoe with his feet, swaying his hands from left to right, and walked in front with the noble and elegant steps of a first-grade primary school student. In fact, the steps of carefree kindergarten children are the most noble and elegant, followed by first graders. The higher the grade, the greater the study pressure, the heavier the skull bag, and the harder it is to keep the pace brisk and lively, and naturally it is impossible to be noble and elegant. By analogy, the third year of high school is like a dog, living a life of survival, which has nothing to do with nobility and elegance. Even after entering college, they have forgotten the carefree life they once had, and have only learned to degenerate and show off. Lu Sin was no longer as fearful as he was at first, and had regained some of the relaxed attitude towards life that a dog's brain could understand. He would bite the curb, and jump into the green belt and plop a few times, showing that this was the unique temperament of Zhou Dongdong's dog. "Zhou Dongdong, why do you always hang out in various stores after school? You don't have a few dollars in your pocket?" Lu Chang'an hoped that Zhou Dongdong would grow up because he understood the cruelty of reality. Zhou Dongdong dug into his pocket, and there were $1 coins and $1 banknotes inside. 2 yuan could buy 4 yuan of spring water tofu, or 4 yuan of small skewers, filling half of a plastic packaging box. Stall owners selling spring water tofu often control costs shrewdly. If primary school students consume less, even the plastic foam packaging boxes that melt when heated with hot oil will be torn into 2 pieces for use. Only rich people who spend at least 5 yuan will get a whole packaging box. "I have money." Zhou Dongdong put the $2 back and patted her pocket. She needed to save a little money now, so she just walked around in front of those shops, imagining that she would be rich in the future. "If you buy it again, you will be very happy. What are your ideals for saving money now?" "Open a canteen, buy a garbage truck, and buy gifts for mom." After Zhou Dongdong finished speaking, he quickly looked around to see if there was any garbage that could be picked up and sold for money. Zhou Dongdong had too many ideals, but it was difficult to make money. Opening a canteen and buying a garbage truck seem a bit far away. "Let's make money first to buy a gift for your mother." Lu Chang'an thought for a while and said, "Okay." Zhou Dongdong raised his head happily. "Ouch. Don't bark like a dog." Zhu Huntang's imitation of a sheep's bark is hopeless, but Lu Chang'an still hopes to reduce the number of times Zhou Dongdong barks like a dog. "Brother Chang'an, dogs howl and sheep bleat, So what do we people do? Joe Dong Dong frowned, his eyes shining with a clear and thoughtful light. Lu Chang'an thought for a while and uttered the original sound of human beings besides language. When humans were still living in the woods, everyone would just say all over the mountains and plains, and then slowly uttered by side and the like. Other sounds. Ah, Joe Dong Dong shouted, ah. Shut up. Oh. The two of them and the dog returned home. Lu Chang'an put down his bag, and Joe Dong Dong also put his school bags side by side. Seeing one of his mother's bags hanging on the wall, he took it and put it together. Let's set up a barbecue stall. I'm in charge of the barbecue. I'm the boss. You're in charge of helping out. You're my worker. After everything is sold out, I'll pay you your salary. Lu Chang'an was inspired by eating grilled fish with an Nuan and Yan Qing Cheng at noon. The main reason is that the barbecue at noon was not as enjoyable as it was more refined and lacked the pyrotechnics. Fireworks are actually just a narrow perspective on the world when one is rich, free, and comfortable. Most of the fireworks in the world, through the burning sparks and the choking smoke, hide the toil of the world. Of course there is no problem with Lu Chang'an's narrow perspective. He is Lu Chang'an. I can get paid too. Joe Dong Dong tilted his head, stretched out his thumb and index finger and rubbed it, his eyes sparkling. Of course, if you meet Sister Dandan on the road, don't tell her about my salary for you. Lu Chang'an has never lost money in business in all dynasties, so he naturally knows how to make smart calculations. Why? I'm not teaching you to lie, but to keep secrets. In most industries and company regulations, employee salary levels fall within the scope of confidentiality. Lu Chang'an warned. Joe Dong Dong didn't understand, but she knew how to keep the secret, because Brother Chang'an didn't allow her to say ouch to show that she knew, so she had to shout ah to show that she knew. Joe Dong Dong opened her mouth wide. Lu Chang'an looked at her tonsils and nodded. The two of them walked downstairs. Lu Sin bit the leash and followed him, and Lu Chang'an took it with him. After all, when making skewers, there must be a place to dispose of the leftovers. When they reached the canteen, Shang Guan Dandan, who was holding a thermos bottle, rushed out and automatically walked side by side with Lu Chang'an and Joe Dong Dong out of the community without asking what they were going for. Anyway, Lu Chang'an and Joe Dong Dong were not in chaos. Shopping and eating are all things Shang Guan Dandan likes to actively participate in. I won 10 yuan today, Shang Guan Dandan said with some satisfaction. When it comes to playing cards, as long as there is a fixed set of cards, winning or losing will generally be more balanced after playing for a long time. Even if some people's luck is relatively good recently and some people's luck is relatively bad, in the long run, the difference is not much different. Lu Chang'an seems to be a master, with excellent skills, and he often wins the glares of old men and old ladies. In fact, everyone knows his skills well. After counting the wins and losses in various scorebooks, he just wins slightly more and loses less. Not to mention taking advantage of everyone. Otherwise, everyone will not be able to play together. A person whose level is obviously a few levels higher and who only takes money from other people's pockets will soon be excluded from the fixed circle of poker friends. He will have to compete with his level. Almost everyone goes to play. The same is true for Lu Chang'an, and the same is true for Shang Guan Dandan. When he wins, he doesn't win much, and when he loses, he doesn't lose much. Now he doesn't worry about losing all the thermos pots, even though old man Qian still keeps saying that he wants to keep Shang Guan Dandan's thermos warm. The pot is one away, but it is just a card game strategy to create a psychological deterrent. In fact, it cannot be achieved at all. After all, Shang Guan Dandan now has a fixed income of 80 yuan a day, and losing 80 yuan a day in a community card game is fun that can be talked about for a long time. Brother Chang'an said we were going to set up a barbecue stall to make money, Joe Dong Dong said enviously, but she was also a salary earner. She clenched her fleshy fists and jumped on the spot, feeling happy. We can go to Xiaotang's kitchen to get the meat to make skewers to save costs. Shang Guandandan is a queen mother who lives her life shrewdly. When she shows her high quality, she naturally thinks quickly. That's the princess you canonized. You have the final say. Lu Chang'an has no objection. Anyway, she can't finish the ingredients in Zhuntang's kitchen. Most of the ingredients are just spare parts. They will be cleaned up immediately after the best before date. Lost. It's not wasteful to throw them all away. Some will be provided to the staff kitchen, and some will be sent to the kitchen of Zhuji restaurant to be sold to various customers who come here to show off their meals. Zhuji restaurant was originally responsible for providing Zhu Huntang's daily catering services, but in the initial expectation, most of Zhu Huntang's daily life would be conducted in Beilong Center. In fact, she is now moving around, instead of being a eldest lady in Beilong Center who needs a large number of service personnel and departments to serve her at any time. As one of the components of the service department, Zhuji restaurant has greatly increased the importance of providing services to her. In order to maintain his importance and career prospects, Chef Zhang Jiai simply tried his best to run the restaurant into a top restaurant with high popularity in Junxia. After Lu Chang'an visited Zhuji restaurant, he borrowed barbecue tools, stoves, and charcoal from Zhang Jiai, further saving the cost of setting up a barbecue stall. Naturally, all the ingredients and seasonings were obtained from Zhu Huntang's private kitchen. The bamboo skewers he purchased at the supermarket were purchased at his own expense. Coupled with his superb barbecue skills, he also spent a lot of money. Everyone knows that in high-end catering, the chef's craftsmanship directly determines the success or failure of the business, so from this point of view, he produced bamboo sticks and craftsmanship, which indeed provided the most cost. All kinds of food he collected from Zhu Huntang. Planting things is nothing. The barbecue stall is placed at the entrance of Beilong Center. Behind it is Tesla's display store, as well as the dazzling logos of various luxury brands on the huge exterior wall. The square area on the ground floor of the building is managed by Beilong Center itself. It is usually rented by various brands to hold marketing activities. Now a barbecue stall is set up here. As long as the Beilong Center Management Department has no objection, the urban management has no control. When Lu Chang'an opened his stall, it was already dark, the streets were busy with traffic, and there were more and more pedestrians. It seemed like a very suitable time for doing business. He put on gloves and was responsible for handling the ingredients. Zhou Dongdong was responsible for stringing them together with bamboo skewers. Shang Guandandan held a small fan and stared at the barbecue stove with wide eyes. As we all know, fire is the basis of cooking, and there is no barbecue without fire. Of course the Queen Mother has to pay attention to the most important things, and she is trying her best. Let's taste it first. After Zhou Dongdong threaded 3 strings, he put them on the charcoal fire. Shang Guandandan nodded. The charcoal seller didn't have money to burn charcoal, and the silkworm girl didn't have silk to weave herself beautiful clothes. Those were all ancient things. Modern people often make things they can't afford, but generally speaking, anyone who works at a barbecue stall can afford to eat barbecue. Lu Chang'an looked like he was preparing to set up a stall to make money. Shang Guandandan observed calmly. If he could indeed make money, he could also set up a stall in the future. If the sales were not enough, Shang Guandandan continued to think about the Flamingo cruise. Subway ticket machines, going to the bank to get money and other more promising industries. I brought you drinks. Zhongqing pushed a wine cabinet over, followed by 2 men in black carrying huge batteries to power the cabinet. Huh? That Zhang Xinhan is here. Now shouldn't you show up with her in front of the third wife to consolidate your position, Lu Chang'an said to Zhongqing while cutting the beef. On the day Sanmiai's family went to the amusement park, although Lu Chang'an didn't pay special attention to it, he could still feel the looks and expressions between Jin Xiaomei, Zhang Xinhan, and Zhongqing, who were fighting openly and secretly. With more women around him, his thoughts will inevitably become more delicate. he will not blindly behave like a straight man who is only immersed in his own world. Being an ordinary person with high emotional intelligence is the personal image that Lu Chang'an has always been satisfied with. Why should I argue with her over this? I already belong to the type who was kicked out of the secretarial team by the third wife and left to fend for myself. Zhong Qing showed a pitiful expression. Women should be good at showing weakness and making men feel pity. Look at Zhou Shuling, she has taken this to the extreme and has achieved enviable achievements. It is of no benefit if a woman is extremely arrogant, for example, the former third wife even got the nickname Antarctic Man from Zhu Huntang. Zhu Huntang is also very arrogant. He is the first person to be arrogant in front of Lu Chang'an. He is also beaten every day, but what is his relationship with Lu Chang'an? It doesn't matter how arrogant she is, but it's not okay for others to imitate her. On the way that day when I took Shang Guandandan to see Chiu, Shang Guandandan wanted a robot on the road. The third wife's behavior had already let Zhong Qing know that she had a heavy burden on her. There is little hope that the third wife can please people from all walks of life and consolidate the status of the Zhu family faction and compete for favor. Fortunately, Zhong Qing has always been favored by Shang Guandandan. At this time, of course she will make a contribution, not like Zhang Xinhan. Such a petty attitude is limited to showing off in front of the third wife. Oh? Then set up a stall with us. We plan to sell 30,000 yuan tonight. Lu Chang'an randomly set a small goal. It is really uncommon for some barbecue stalls to sell 3 to 5,000 yuan a night. Those with a certain reputation often have a turnover of 2 to 30,000 to 30 to 50,000, especially seafood barbecue. In the past 10 or 20 years until now, most people who are willing to work hard in business have achieved something. Just like the vegetable wholesale market and seafood wholesale market in Junsha, those who look like they are guarding a small shop with a small facade. Small bosses have often bought tens of millions of dollars in villas, large flats, etc. for their children. This is a fact that young people who have just graduated from prestigious schools and are thinking about finding a job all day long do not know or pay attention to. I hope the business will be prosperous. Zhong Qing believed that Lu Chang'an's craftsmanship was superb and that the various high-end ingredients displayed here were affordable, but she knew Shang Guandandan and Zhou Dongdong, and most of the kebabs were sold. Did he go out or was he eaten by them? The answer is obvious. Zhong Qing brought drinks to Zhou Dongdong and Shang Guandandan, and while helping Zhou Dongdong put on the skewers, he also fed Lu Chang'an wine. Seeing that Zhou Dongdong filled the barbecue pit with skewers, enough for several of her to eat, Shang Guandandan walked to the front and stared at the passers-by with wide eyes, hoping that they could understand the meaning in her eyes. Come and patronize Lu Chang'an's business. When Lu Chang'an saw this scene, he remembered that Shang Guandandan once distributed leaflets like this, but in the end, not a single leaflet was distributed. Weijiao barbecue, come and see. Charcoal grilled lobster, come and see. You have to shout like that. Lu Chang'an educated the queen mother who spent most of her life eating dirt in a coffin and did not like the fireworks of the world. He keeps his eyes wide open and stares at people all day long, which is not a business material at all. Zhuntang has a variety of ingredients, but they are suitable for barbecue and the quantity is relatively large. The ones suitable for sale are beef and various lobsters. Large crabs and the like are inconvenient to handle on site, while rare and delicious sea fish are more suitable for cooking on the stove or making fish dumplings. His beef is actually not Weijiao, but Weijiao is famous and well known, so it is perfect for fooling the little bourgeoisie who pursues a refined life and a sense of ritual. As for fooling consumers, Lu Chang'an doesn't feel any guilt. Firstly, his beef is of higher quality than the so-called Weijiao on the market, and it is clean and hygienic. Secondly, as an old Bolshevik, it is the right thing to educate the young bourgeoisie. I don't. Shang Guandandan stubbornly rejected Lu Chang'an's suggestion, put down the small fan in his hand, and held the thermos pot in a more majestic manner to attract the attention of passers-by. Lu Chang'an shook his head and saw that the beef was roasting over the charcoal fire until it was sizzling and oily, so he brushed the ingredients, turned it over and grilled it again, then took 4 skewers and handed them to Zhou Dongdong. Dongdong, stand in front and eat while shouting, brothers, sisters, uncles, and aunts, come to eat our barbecue. Zhou Dongdong held 2 skewers of snowflake beef skewers that exploded with fat, filled with aroma, and had a faintly translucent flesh color. He couldn't help but open his mouth and took a bite. He let out a happy ouch and disappeared on the spot. Lu Chang'an sighed, picked up 2 skewers of beef and let Zhongqing have a taste, handed an arm-long piece of lobster meat to Shang Guandandan, and took the remaining handful and ate it. This business was simply impossible. What else can one do besides eating? Wish you all a happy new year. All kinds of requests.